30 is Kevin Acee. It's been a perfect start, truly, for the Padres. Trying to get to 7-0 today, leading behind Dylan Cease. Remember, Michael King, we didn't even talk about it. It was so good last night. 11 strikeouts, and now Dylan Cease today has been so good again. And the first outings of the year for King and Cease weren't great, but the Padres won. The second outings for King and Cease have been unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a start that you could only have dreamed of for the Padres. They are playing flawless baseball. They are doing all the things right. Jackson Merrill today signing the 9-year, $135 million contract. Literally, everything has gone perfectly for the San Diego Padres. I can't express that enough. It's a weird feeling in this town. You know, you're like, wait, things are going a little too well right now for the Padres. Like everything. No, there's nothing to complain about. Like nothing. We can come in here and we can talk about Jason Hayward and Martin Maldonado and Yuli Gurriel. Okay, it's fine. But they're 6-0. They're on the verge of 7-0. Their stud center fielder, who is adored in this town, beloved, Jackson Merrill. Oh, by the way, 9 years, $135 million, pretty team friendly. And he says that he essentially wanted to sign that deal to give the organization flexibility in the future to sign other players because all he cares about is winning.
Right. It's like that. It's so true. That is the dream scenario. It's like when you end up with Tom Brady and Brady takes less to win. And then there's other quarterbacks that take more because they want what they're owed. You know, there's players around baseball right now making way more than Jackson Merrill. There's young players making more than Jackson Merrill. But then again, like at the end of the day, you got $135 million guaranteed. This could be a deal worth over $200 million, by the way. And he's only going to be 30. And there's been a lot of 30-year-olds in Major League Baseball that have signed rich contracts. So he has a chance to earn beyond 99% of players all time, right? He could earn $200, $300, $400 million over the course of his career, but there's more than money. I mean, there's happiness, right? I mean, if you want to be in San Diego, if this is the group you came up with, if you want to win at a high level, like they've proven they can do those things. They still have to go beyond it. They still want to win at a higher level. They still want to get to a World Series and win a World Series, but it's only year 2 for Jackson Merrill. You got to ask yourself this. Are you better off in this situation or are you better off elsewhere? And I think Merrill answered it immediately. I mean, he knew from day one, Jim, he has been preaching this since he reached the major leagues. I want to be in San Diego. We're like, you're a kid. You're just saying that. That's funny. Oh, I'll take less. You're a kid. No, he was being honest. He wanted to be here all along.
And not only that, he matched his actions with his words. He has a fairly new agent, so it's not like the organization was dealing with like Scott Boras. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of other agents might have said you should wait this thing out. Like Paul Skeens ain't signing a 9-year, $135 million deal to stay with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Right.
Jackson Merrill is saying to the organization and the fan base, all I care about is winning. I also do care about getting compensated, but it's not the like end all be all. Kind of like with Magoon, and we'll talk about Magoon here coming up in a bit, where it quotes from Dutch says like, sometimes money isn't everything to people. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, you know what, $135 million, that's enough. Like,
money
with the potential to have $165 million because that 10th year is a $30 million option. I think there's some escalators in there with like getting MVP votes and whatnot. But to some people, like Joe Musgrove, he signed a 5-year, $100 million contract, and he could have gotten more in the open market. But he said, look, I want to stay here, $100 million. If I can't live off $100 million, then I got problems. And that's kind of what Jackson Merrill said today without saying it. If I can't live the rest of my life off $135 million total, that's a problem. And all I care about is ball. All I care about is winning. He is the perfect player that every fan dreams of having on their favorite team. And that's Jackson Merrill. Could not be more happier. He is, I mean, just a revelation for this organization. He is a guy that, is just perfect. He is literally, to me, damn near perfect. And every fan loves him, as they should.
Brent, can we hear one more time? Because I thought this was an unbelievable soundbite from Jackson Merrill. The cut you have on what he hopes to do over the next 9 or 10 years from Jackson Merrill. So again, this was this morning at Petco Park. The deal's officially official. This is Jackson Merrill and what he hopes to do in the next 9 seasons.
Winning, and just winning only. There's so much in a contract with money and all that, but my goal is to win. It's always been to win. It's always been to dominate with my boys on the field, and I'm just happy I get to do it for a long amount of time now.
That's all he wants to do is just win. All he just wants to do is win. I mean, it's a perfect answer.
Right.
Everything he said this morning when I was listening to it on my phone, I was like, oh my God, this guy, everything he's saying, I love that. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Makes you want to run through a wall. Makes you just excited to watch this kid play. And oh, by the way, he's a superstar. He's not just like an average good player, but everyone loves him because he's, this fan favorite. No, he's arguably the best center fielder in the National League. And he's the probably second best center fielder in the game behind Aaron Judge. Think about that. Aaron Judge is number 1 for good reason. And right below that is Jackson Merrill. Jackson Merrill is, I was listening to MLB Network today, Brian Kenny. I know, I get it. But he was breaking down his numbers and he pointed out, look, his numbers show he's one of the best, if not the best center fielders in the game, if it wasn't for Aaron Judge.
Which is crazy to say about a guy that's been in the big leagues for like 170 games. To say,
Right.
and isn't a guy that broke in at the age of 24 or 25. Brent, one more from earlier for our listeners that missed it from AJ Preller on how this deal came together from earlier today. So this is AJ Preller with the media, how this deal came to be.
Yeah, we've had a couple attempts over the last few years, and then just re-engaged here, really going into the off season. That, hey, this is something that obviously, we're going to focus on continuing to build our roster and our team. But when we get to probably to the new year, this is something that we're gonna look to from John and Eric and myself. When we got to the last month, we started to get really serious. So I think again, the last couple of years, Nick's had conversations with Josh and Drew, and then started the off season, sat down with Jackson and said, hey, where's your head at? What are you thinking? He indicated again he was open to it. He really wants to be here. So it's like, all right, let us kind of get to our off-season business. And when we get to the turn of the calendar, we'll start getting more serious with it. And, that's how it all unfolded here the last couple of months.
Just like that.
Easy. You heard rumblings too. Remember a couple weeks ago when we talked about, potential rumblings of Jackson Merrill signing an extension, and we were talking about it and didn't know how really real it was, but there was rumblings of, hey, they've talked a couple times. I remember Dennis reported that they were talking a couple times last year, and they were talking in spring training. And so, it was funny. Darren, and I texted him this morning about this. Darren tweeted out something, I think 5 days ago. And all he tweeted out, and it was at a random time. It wasn't during the baseball game. He tweeted out a picture of Jackson Merrill doing like a shrug.
Mm-hmm.
And all he said was, this guy. And it was at a random time. It wasn't during a game. It wasn't like right after he did something good.
It wasn't during the game. I didn't realize that.
It wasn't.
Yeah. Because I saw the tweet. I didn't realize when it happened.
It was at a random time. And I go, that's interesting.
Right.
Because we know Darren's in the know. And so I texted him this morning and I go, so this is what you were talking about. And all he did is sent me a winky face emoji back.
I mean, obviously, when you're working on a $135 million deal, it's not like it's something they put together in a PDF 12 hours ago, right? There has to be back and forth. There had been conversations. He commented on it at the end of spring training. You sometimes think that when a season starts, all that matters is what happens on field. Like that's what, when Profar got suspended, I'm like, oh, that can happen. You kind of forget, like you're in season. Things can happen. And once we got into the season and I watched the Padres get off to a 6-0 start, I'm not expecting to wake up this morning and see a Jackson Merrill 9-year deal. I'm just not. They're off to a great start. You're in season. You're worried about winning, but you can accomplish both. That has been proven before. This is not the only instance of a player signing a deal in season. And by the way, it's not even in season. I mean, it's 6 days in. You know what I mean? So they're probably talking about this in late March. All of a sudden, late March, the season starts. But the sides want to come to some type of resolution. And I do think the Padres were probably the side that's like, let's push this thing through. Because if we don't get it done now, and Merrill is Merrill, it's only going to cost the Padres more. So I see this as, yes, it happens in the season, but it's almost like it happened in the offseason. Because it clearly started in an offseason and just happened to end 6 days into a season, but it clearly started well before the last 6 days.
Yeah, there
Obviously.
were talks.
Yep.
It's not like all of a sudden they said,
Hey,
yesterday,
it's Monday, let's do it.
hey, you want to do this?
The bobblehead night was really popular.
Yeah. Man, that'd be cool if they did it on the bobblehead night, right?
So he had the bobblehead night. They named a road after him.
That sign was taken down. I saw a tweet this morning from Annie saying that the sign was gone.
Well, okay, there's a road sign about a highway.
There was, yeah.
There's a bobblehead. There's a homer last night. There's a 6-0 start. There's the contract extension today. There's a homer today post-contract extension.
They're up 4-0 in the 7th inning. Dylan Cease is still out there throwing darts.
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play in a positive way? I mean, it's
Lincoln survived.
Yeah, exactly. It missed.
Yeah,
it missed.
The bullet missed.
4-0 to your point. The Padres have 3 shutouts in their first 6 games coming into today.
It's like the best pitching staff ever. You got the offense right now, they lead the league in run differential. Remember a couple years ago, we were like, run differential.
Right.
And the team sucked.
Right.
Now it's like, run differential. Greatest team ever.
I mean, we'll see. It is kind of, I don't know if it's ironic, but it is interesting. They're in a division with the only other undefeated team that's actually played more games than them and is, of course, expected to win the division in LA. But listen, it's early. So nobody knows who's going to win the division.
No,
and nobody
John
knows if the Padres are going to have a record-breaking year. But you can't ask for anything more. It's just been incredible to watch. 4-0 Padres in the 7th inning. All right, let's set the stage here for the next couple of hours on the show. We'll hear from Mike Schilt when this game ends. On the other side, though, Dave Velasquez, what a 24 hours for San Diego State men's basketball.
Yeah.
They've added in the portal. We've talked about that. They added again today. We can discuss that as well. But Magoon, Guath, and Miles Bird both committing to San Diego State if they don't stay in the 2025 NBA draft. It was a huge night for Aztec fans. It's this crazy time in college athletics where the transfer portal is open and you're trying to keep your team together. And San Diego State seems as well positioned as maybe they've ever been right now. Now, the portal is still open. Things can change, but Magoon Guath has withdrawn his name from the transfer portal. That is huge news. Huge news.
I wish that there was a camera on you.
Oh my gosh.
When the news dropped last night, because we're in a business of content and reaction, and I know you, and I know what probably your reaction was, probably similar to the reaction you had when Lamont hit that game winner in the Final Four, maybe a little more, because
this was more. Kristen thought somebody maybe died. I was like, oh my God. She's watching like Real House. I'm like, oh my God,
dude.
And she's like, what
happened?
And I read it like 6 times.
Like, no, it's not April Fool's Day joke. No.
Mark Ziegler's reporting that Magoon Guath is coming back. She's like, you didn't react this way when I said I was pregnant. I'm like, because I didn't have the same, like, I don't know. She was right.
Like, this is better. Sorry, honey.
John won't get this reference, but you probably will, Jim. He's like that movie Smile. Remember when they get that big creepy smile on his face and they couldn't wipe it off his face?
Can you imagine?
John was very happy.
Let's catch up with Dave Velasquez, San Diego State longtime assistant on the other side, John and Jim.
All right, this update is brought to you by Staples Stores. Update in the Padres Guardians game, final game of the 3-game series. Padres looking for the sweep and to finish off a perfect homestand to start the year. They lead the Guardians 4-1, top of the 7th inning. Runner on second base with 1 out for the Guardians. Moving over to other news with the Padres. Jackson Merrill has signed a 9-year, $135 million contract extension with an option for a 10th year at $30 million. And news on the Mesa, Magoon Gloth announced last night that he is removing his name from the transfer portal, and he will be returning to San Diego State if he decides to not go pro. And this update's been brought to you by Staples.
All right, San Diego, Southern California, hour 2, John and Jim. What a 24 hours in the San Diego sports scene. I'll tell you what, Dave Velasquez, longtime Aztec assistant, has done such a good job over the years on the Mesa. Of course, right now, working with Brian Dutcher and his staff here, getting ready for 25-26. We're just a couple of weeks removed from the season. You can only imagine, Dave, the reaction of Aztec fans when they saw this news about Magoon Gloth withdrawing his name from the transfer portal. Yes, he could still go to the NBA draft, but if he comes back to college, he'll go back to San Diego State. My reaction was so ridiculous, Dave, that Kristen, my wife, was on the couch with me. She's like, you didn't react to this when I told you I was pregnant 6 years ago. And then she was right. She was spot on. So I want to know, what was your reaction? This is such a crazy time where guys are in the portal, then they're out of the portal. What has it been like for you to be a part of what's transpired here with Magoon specifically? And thanks for hopping on.
I appreciate you guys having me. It's definitely been a learning experience. But when we found out that Goon was coming back, I mean, like you said, I think if my wife was around me, she might have said the same exact thing. I think I was more excited too. So I understand where you're coming from. We all were. And more than anything, it's, we're so excited about where Magoon was, his growth, his development on and off the court, and just to be able to be a part of it for one more year if he doesn't go to the NBA draft, and it just speaks to what our culture, what our tradition is. And, he stayed and he had a lot of offers and he had some big time offers, but he believed in our staff. He believes in San Diego State community, and he believes that this is the best place to get him ready for the next level. And it's going to be awesome to see the growth over this time. If, like I said, we're going to root for him to get to the draft, but if not, his development going into next season. I mean, he was already freshman of the year and defensive player of the year in our league. I mean, it's going to be an exciting time at San Diego State.
Where were you, Coach? Like, were you at the facility? Were you at home? I mean, this kind of dropped kind of late at night.
Well, guys, when you're involved in it, you don't get just a yes. You know what I mean? There's a lot of conversations that happen, and so, but we got to go to work on our reload campaign with Mesa. That's a real thing, and we have the reload campaign right now. We're at $320K out of $500K, and we got to get people to give. We have an anonymous matching donor that will get there if we hit that number, and that's what it is in college basketball. So for us, Mesa is as big of anything to continue to retain our players and continue to get other new players. And I can't speak on everybody, but you guys read the news. We're adding some big time pieces to this program, some pieces that are going to add value in every which way to this program, but to retain the guys we have, to keep the transfer portal quiet from our end, we need our fans, the community to step up, tell a friend, get a friend to step up and help us out.
Yeah, I do love that. Dave Velasquez with us again. If you want to contribute, your donation is matched going on right now, mesa-aztecs.org. So your donation is really going far right now to help keep this team together. Add to it as well, mesa-aztecs.org, to take advantage of that matching offer going on right now. I want to say again that this transfer portal era is relatively new, but oftentimes when players went in previously, and I'm not just talking about with San Diego State, typically you go in, you often leave. Now, I noticed in the last transfer portal window with college football, there were players going in and then returning to their teams. When Magoon went in, at that point, did you think there was a possibility to get him back or not?
I did.
Okay.
I did. I think we all did, because we knew where Magoon's heart was. We knew what his trust in us was, and he'd be a fool to not go and see what else was out there. You know what I mean? Like, to go see what it is. And, it's a business now, and fans and coaches, we all have to move on from the old days on what it was. It's never going back again, and so for him to look at what he had, and then to be able to come back and say, okay, this is exactly where I want to be. You talk about being, 10 toes down, 2 feet in the boat. I mean, that's as much as you can ever be by going in, seeing everything, and still saying, you know what, I'm staying here at San Diego State. And I think, like I said, I speak to the culture, the tradition, the Coach Dutcher, how he runs the program, how everyone in our program operates, how much his teammates mean to him, his brothers that he's with every single day. It speaks volumes. And to have his family trust us as well, not just Magoon. He's a young kid who relies on his family to help him in this process. And they, for their trust. I mean, it's everything you'd want as a coach, to be honest with you. And it was special for us to have the opportunity to possibly have him back next year.
And it wasn't just Magoon last night. Miles Bird doubling down, also posting like, I am returning. Obviously, the draft process is he's going to go through it along with Magoon, but like, I am not entering the portal. I'm an Aztec for life. I mean, you got to feel as, coaching staff, just, pride in seeing that these guys are so committed to you in the NIL era. It's got to feel like, a huge win for the program.
It is a huge win. And we got to continue to get these other wins. Miles is a huge win, and he's put himself on the draft boards, and hopefully they both get invited to the combine. They get great feedback from the NBA. I think that will only help in their development over the year if they end up not going to the draft, to know what they really have to work on, how the NBA sees them. And we have a lot of other guys on our team. We're hoping they probably use up to 12 scholarships, most likely, like always. We never, that 13th is not really ever used in Coach Dutcher as a head coach. So get 12 guys in here. And there's still some targets out there. And so again, that Reloaded campaign, I can't speak enough about how important that is for our fans. You see all this social media and you see all this love, and I love that. And that's what makes us us in the full VAOS arena. But that comes with a price tag now. It just does. And we got to continue to support Mesa, which directly supports San Diego State basketball. And, one of the things I want to talk to you guys about today was, with Miles and with Magoon, with everything happened with him, and Miles doubling down, and a guy like Reese Waters, and either just use the older guys, just use those three. One of the coolest things we had happen was this past weekend. It was one of our former guys, Jared Barnett. He's now a coach up at Pepperdine.
Mm-hmm.
It was his birthday in town, and he got an Airbnb down at Ocean Beach. And I walked into that Airbnb on Sunday, and there was Micah Parrish, Lamont Butler, Miles Bird, and Elijah Saunders.
Wow.
And to get there and to get with all them, just to know what a family, what a brotherhood we have. My kids could not be more excited to see them. They ran up to all of them. They couldn't believe what they were seeing in that room. But it's just what we have at San Diego State is so special. And, our players feel that. And they understand that it's bigger than, the dollar figure, but at the same time, they need it. Yeah, they deserve it. It's what the changing landscape. That's what it is. But what we have here speaks such volumes of when Coach Fisher got here with Dutcher 25 years ago, what you always wanted to have in a program. And this thing has gone on and on for over 2 decades now, 2.5 decades of truly family of San Diego State basketball. You've seen it at the reunions during the year, and you've seen it now, even with guys that have left the program. This is where they want to come back. Lamont played a game on Saturday night. He's in San Diego. This is home.
Yeah.
This is home, and this is family. And you can't replicate that. And it's so awesome that our current guys are starting to feel that, and I think it's something that needed to be said on how close we all are and how much bigger than basketball our program is.
It's really well said. Dave Velasquez with us right now, San Diego State longtime assistant. Again, that matching campaign going on right now, mesa-aztecs.org to keep this team together and add to it, mesa-aztecs.org. So what is this era like when the portal is open? You've gone through it now for a couple of years. I know Dutch said, I think recently publicly, that he's as busy now as he would be in the season. Like, this is really a crunch time. I want to say the portal is open through or until April 22nd. What does that mean for you and the program and the players that were here a year ago, other than the players we've referenced here today? Like, what does this all entail over the next 20 days, roughly?
Well, as of today, I'd like to fast forward 20 days and just end it.
Yep.
Yep. Please, we're done.
Yeah,
we're
done.
We're
Close
done.
this thing.
As of today, we are in a great place.
Yeah,
I mean a great place. And, I think it's, it's something that we're continuing to learn how to handle the portal. You asked, what's our thought process? After today, with the Final Four weekend, it's a dead period where you can't bring anybody on campus and you can't go visit anyone. Most of the coaches in college basketball will be heading out to San Antonio for the Final Four. But for us, we finished the visit this morning. We had breakfast looking at the water in the best city in the world. And so, we can't bring anybody in for the next few days. And, again, we're just trying to keep what we have here and add the right pieces, just not any piece, but the right pieces, add the right type of character, add the right type of players that do things that our other guys might not, or do things that can really make the other guys better. And I think that if you're really watching and you're studying what San Diego State's doing with the roster, that is exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to add pieces that add value to our team in so many different ways. And part of that way being, how can they make our other team that we have here already, how can they make them better? And we're trying to do that every single day. And again, it's such a moving target for the next 22 days. And seriously, can we just get to that date and close this thing?
Yeah,
no doubt.
It sounds like you guys are very happy and pleased with where you're at. I know there's some specifics that you can't get into, but as far as, the needs for your team that you were looking at and hoping to fill for this in this portal period, what are those for this team?
Well, I think, pass first guard was the first thing that we would look for in terms of if we got a chance to get, Miles Bird and Reese Waters back, pass first guard that plays, different than Taj, because Taj DeGorville is going to be a big time player. And then when you have guys on the wings and you can have a guy, multiple guys be able to play off ball screens in the guard spot, I think that's incredibly crucial. So we'll look for us to continue to add guys that not just play off ball screens, but can do a lot. And also just, again, early up the ball, get those guys, get Miles Bird playing downhill, get Reese Waters catch and shoot shots, get him playing off closeouts. Like, you got to remember, Reese Waters didn't play a single game this year. The guy was preseason first team in our conference before he got hurt. I mean, he's a stud. And so, I don't need to name everyone on the roster, but that's kind of what we're looking for. And then obviously looking for a little bit, we want Magoon to help get better at the rebounding area, get Heidi to get better at the rebound area, Farrell Compton get better at rebounding, and then add another guy that could go in there and be versatile and help us rebound the ball. And also just, we got to have guys that can defend at a high level, an elite level that we defend at. And again, San Diego State is always going to be known for defense, but at the same time, we want to continue to make our offense better. And that's part of adding the right pieces to this group. And it's not just a plug and play situation. It's got to fit with everything we do in our program.
Final one for me to further the conversation on Magoon. You talked about like what's next for Magoon, but if we get to a point where he's back at the Mesa for his redshirt sophomore season, you talked about his strength and his rebounding. What is another year of college basketball look like for Magoon? Like, where would you see that growth on the floor if you're an Aztec fan over the next 12 months?
I would say consistency. And then I would say just to overall, just a feel to how much he really can do out there. We talked about it in his redshirt year when he got to practice those last 6 weeks. He can play off ball screens. He can play a closeout. He can score inside on the block. He can push the ball in transition. Defensively, we've seen what he is. I mean, that's incredible. Defensive player of the year as a freshman, I think he played 26 total games so far, and he wins defensive player of the year. He's an elite shot blocker, if not the best in the country. So defensively, we got to continue to get him better at some things on that end. But offensively, it's just being more consistent. It's continuing to highlight all the things that he can do on the floor. He is an unbelievable basketball player on both ends, and we are so lucky to have him.
Mesa-Aztecs.org, that matching campaign supporting San Diego State men's basketball going on right now. Mesa-Aztecs.org to help keep this team together. What a 24 hours with the Magoon news and much more. If you follow it on social media, there's much more going on right now. Positive momentum with San Diego State men's basketball. So, Coach, we always appreciate you, man. We really do. We'll do it again. Hopefully this portal closes at some point sooner rather than later.
Within the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, just close this thing down. But thank you for hopping on today. I always enjoy it.
appreciate you guys, and hopefully the Padres go 162-0 for you, John, and go Aztecs.
At this point, it seems likely.
Yeah, I mean, they're on pace for it, so
I'd be surprised if they didn't.
Guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave. All right, Dave Velasquez again. He has great insight. I love talking to him about
you could
the
tell.
Aztecs. He's excited.
You could tell that he is very, very happy. You know, there are things obviously he couldn't discuss. That's why we asked him, like, what are your needs here? And he mentioned a pass first point guard. Well, that's obviously in the news today with the team getting a commit from.
Oh yeah, we can talk about it.
We can talk about it. He can't talk about it.
Right. They added a kid, I think he's a fifth-year player from Southern California earlier today.
Yeah.
Who was at Louisiana Tech. He was third in the nation in assists per game last year. Sean Newman Jr. He averaged 7.9 assists per game. He had a 20 assist game last year at Louisiana Tech.
Is that good?
It's pretty good. 20 assist game. So they've added Sean Newman. We talked with Jeremiah Odin, who's a slasher, rebounder.
They re-added Magoon.
Adam Magoon, Miles Bird has doubled down. He already had said he wasn't going anywhere else. He said it once again. He's not going anywhere else if he doesn't go to the draft.
Reese is going to return.
So again, it's like as it sits currently, you feel really good about it. But we do know in this era,
Anything can happen.
things can change.
Yeah.
But players on the roster.
Right. But if you just read between the lines with Dave Velasquez there, very, very happy.
All right, more on Magoon on the other side. Then coming up at 3:30, Jesse Rogers from ESPN. Jackson Merrill signs a 9-year deal. His reaction to the terms, the dollar figure, the length, and the 6-0 Padres. Jesse Rogers will join us from ESPN at 3:30. It's Sean and Jim. All right, SDFC Midweek Live coming up at 6 p.m. with Darren Smith. Again, coming off that win this past weekend over LAFC and looking forward to this weekend as well. SDFC Midweek Live today at 6 after John and Jim right here on San Diego Sports 760. Jesse Rogers, ESPN, really good voice on all things Major League Baseball, baseball reporter for ESPN. He will join us. His thoughts on Jackson Merrill signing this 9-year deal. He'll join us coming up in about 8 or 9 minutes. Now, the Padres are trying to hold on here. They do lead Cleveland, trying to complete a sweep of a homestand at 7-0, leading Cleveland right now, Jim, in the 8th inning, 5-2.
Yeah. Luis Ariz hit a home run today. Jackson Merrill hit a home run today. Pitching was great from Dylan Cease. They're not going to be perfect all the time, the bullpen, even though the bullpen has been perfect this year, essentially. 1 run in 20 innings coming into this game? 0.45 ERA.
I think it was 1 run in 24 innings because they went 4 scoreless innings yesterday.
That's right. Yeah. 24 scoreless innings. Yeah. Where have I heard that before?
No, it was 1 run in 24 innings.
But still, yeah. They're going to get tested at some point for sure. But if they can complete the homestand sweep here, and there's trouble in this 8th inning right now, if they can complete this homestand sweep, like we said to start the show, everything is awesome, everything is great, and this is a moment in time that we are living in that has never happened before in Padres history. So Padres fans, soak it up right now, and hopefully the good times continue to keep rolling.
Yeah, there was an interesting tweet from our former colleague Marty Caswell this morning where she's like, could you ever imagine a better week for Padres fans specifically? And really, the only better weeks are in postseasons. The only way to have better weeks than this, because this is the regular season. And of course, it matters. It helps you get to the postseason. But yeah, it could be topped, but it's not going to be topped in many regular seasons. I think it's going to take special play in postseasons, which is something they've done at times over the last 5 years. They've had series wins, and they're going to need more of them moving forward. But yeah, from a regular season first week of the year perspective, of course you can't top what they've done this week.
Don't get me wrong. 2022 when they beat the Dodgers, that was a great week.
Yeah.
But it was quickly, squashed when they took on the Phillies in the NLCS.
Right.
But yeah, I'm thinking about a better week that you could have, especially to start a season. They've had winning streaks in the season for sure, but at the start of the year, there has definitely not been anything better than what has happened through the first week of this season. Everything has gone right. You could not have asked for a better start. And then to put the cherry on top, signing Jackson Merrill just makes every fan just go crazy. And if they can complete this game right here and win it, 7-0 to start. If they can complete the game here, Jackson Merrill signed forever. Not forever, but you get my point. It's great.
Yeah, Adrian Morejon just got out of a 1st and 3rd 1-out jam in a 5-2 game with the Padres leading by inducing a ground ball double play. So they'll head to the 9th inning with at least a 5-2 lead. They'll bat in the bottom of the 8th. They haven't batted in the bottom of a 9th inning.
That's wild.
And they are on the verge, hopefully, of completing a 7-0 homestand. They lead again Cleveland 5-2. On the day that Merrill signs this massive extension, this 9-year extension that will keep him here until at least the age of 30, he's hit a home run. That's so Jackson Merrill, where he's like, I don't feel the pressure. And he's proved that once again, even here today.
Yeah, we don't feel the pressure. We apply the pressure.
Put it on a shirt.
Everything he has said this year needs to go on a shirt, right?
Yeah.
He said at least like 4 things.
He's
and
got
I'm
like 4 shirts.
That's got to go on a shirt. That's got to go on a shirt. I need that shirt right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So 5-2 Padres. When the game goes final, we will hear from Mike Schilt post-game. We'll hear from Kevin Acee, our Padres insider, his thoughts on this busy day. He's been covering this story since about 6 a.m. So Kevin Acee will join us coming up at 5:30. But on the other side, Jesse Rogers, ESPN, the national perspective on Jackson Merrill and the Padres coming to terms on a 9-year deal that will keep Merrill here through at least age 30. 9 years, $135 million. And again, on the other side, Jesse Rogers will join us. We have tickets to give away today as well. We have Willie Nelson and Bob Dylan tickets we'll give away in the 4 o'clock hour. But Jesse Rogers from ESPN will join us next. Stay with us.
This update's brought to you by Staples Stores. Padres Guardians, final game of their 3-game series. Padres looking to complete the sweep and complete the perfect homestand to start their year. They're leading the Guardians 5-2 with 2 outs in the bottom of the 8th inning. Luis Ariz and Jackson Merrill both have home runs today. Speaking of Jackson Merrill, he signed a 9-year, $135 million contract extension this morning with the Padres. And Aztecs news, Magoon Guath announced last night that he is returning to San Diego State, taking his name out of the transfer portal. He will also enter the NBA draft process. And this update's been brought to you by Staples.
All right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. Busy day continues with Jesse Rogers. Really appreciate Jesse taking time. The start of the baseball season obviously underway within the last week. And Jesse from ESPN back with us right now. John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. So we were pleasantly surprised in San Diego, Jesse, to see the news this morning. We didn't necessarily expect it now that we're a week into the year, but Jackson Merrill locked up long-term, 9 years, 135, a chance to earn more than that. What was your reaction to this deal from afar? And thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good to be with you guys. I mean, not shocked. You never know when these deals are going to go down. A lot of times it's at the end of spring training. Sometimes they carry over. But after Jackson Cherio signed up last year and Corbin Carroll the year before, this is what many of the medium to smaller markets do. Sometimes the bigger markets don't always do this right away. And some of the big agents like Scott Forrest doesn't necessarily do this right away with clients. But it's not surprising. And one reason is that they believe in the kid, the character of the kid. This goes for 20-year-olds or 30-year-olds. They better love the game. They better be committed to the game if you're going to give 9 or 10-year contracts out. And not every player comes through for you. I mean, Anthony Rendon's probably the poster player for that, right? So I think they just believe in him. You guys are closer to it. Seems like a great kid. Watched the press conference today. So not surprised. Again, I couldn't guess timing. Those negotiations take time sometimes, but it's good to see the Padres, even with this transition in ownership, are moving ahead, signing Pivetta, signing up Jackson Merrill. This is good news, and the team's off to a great start.
If Jackson Merrill continues to get better and better, when you look at this deal, could you consider this like a team-friendly deal from afar?
Well, yes, of course it is in some ways, because that's the whole reason they offer it. Mm-hmm. I mean, there is a risk on both sides. He's very young. He could be bad for the next 8 years, right? That's possible.
Yeah.
But considering what he did last year, considering who he is, again, the character, that, yeah, he will give more value than that contract. But that's the trade-off. That's the correct trade-off. You can't give him the world. He hasn't done anything more than 1 year. And you can't completely lowball him either. It has to be a compromise. And most of the time, unless it's the biggest agents and the for sure thing players, they're going to get $700 million like Shohei or Soto. It's a smart move for both sides. And I think a lot of the smaller markets are trying to do this. Bobby Witt, Kansas City. It makes a lot of sense for the player, and it makes a lot of sense for the team as well.
Jesse Rogers from ESPN with us right now. John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. Jesse, in your opinion, does this say anything about the stability of the Padres ownership, considering the change they've had, the untimely passing of Peter, the interim chairperson, Eric Katsenda, now Peter's older brother, John Seiler, running the operation? We didn't necessarily know what to expect, but here he is a month on the job. There's been Pivetta. There's been this for over $100 million. What do you think it says about ownership?
Well, I definitely think it has to show at least a moment of stability here. Look, not only do you have the ownership thing, you have this new CBA in a couple of years. Who knows what the economic system is going to look like? And AJ Preller was given permission to go full speed ahead. So, yeah, I mean, look, rumors are rumors, but it went from trading Dylan Cease and Michael King to signing Pivetta and Jackson Merrill. It's crazy. But, I think the real story is somewhere in between. They weren't exactly sure what direction they were going to go in. And then he's given the green light to sort of go for it. They got a great core there. It'd be silly not to go for it in some respects. There's a 9-year deal. The money is spread out. It doesn't crush the Padres' finances, but it is telling that they are able to move forward. I think Pivetta was the one that showed that, to be honest.
Padres are a couple outs away here from starting their season 7-0. Jesse, what do you make of their start this year?
Well, it's going to be a great series. I'm in Chicago. Yeah. They're pitching versus the Cubs offense. The Cubs offense has been, if you can believe it, even better than the Yankees. They're just not getting as much notoriety for it, but they just finished a sweep in Sacramento, destroyed the Athletics pitching. So this will be a great series. I just, if Mike Schilt's listening, pack an umbrella, pack a winter hat, because it's going to be very cold. And that goes for all the players. So I love it. It's Petco's turned into a bit of a home field advantage, a party there. Really great start to their season. I think the Dodgers have raised the bar for everybody. I think the Diamondbacks, the Giants, obviously the Rockies are the Rockies, but I think the Dodgers have raised the bar in that division. And I think they understand, we're going to go for it if we can. If we don't beat out the Dodgers, well, there's 3 wild cards to be had. And that's what San Diego and Arizona is thinking. So, but of course they're going to try to dethrone LA. So I love their start. I'm not surprised by it. Of course, being undefeated could be a surprise, but they're a good team that's off to a great start. Now let's see what they do in some cold weather.
Yeah, I know the weekend's going to be very cold in Chicago. Do you see the National League West as potentially the best division in baseball this year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Colorado drags it down. I think San Francisco is going to be decent. It seems like they got a good vibe with Posey going in, for the moment. I mean, we can make smart. I do think the AL East is not as top heavy. Mm-hmm. They're all good. They're not as top heavy. So you couldn't still make a case for the AL East, even though the Yankees are off to a good start. I don't think any of those teams are necessarily better than the Dodgers or maybe even the Padres. The AL East has parity, but I'm not sure if it's elite parity, especially with Cole and Stanton out. So weigh that against a really good NL West division without Colorado. You know what I mean? We'll see. Now the NL East should be top heavy with Atlanta, Philly, and New York. But Atlanta's off to such a bad start. We'll have to see how that goes when Acuna and Strider come back. So if the Rockies were a little bit better, I'd give it to the NL West, but they drag it down a bit.
Jesse Rogers with us right now from ESPN. There's no question about it. When you look at Padres Dodgers from afar, not talking about a true rivalry, because we know they have the Giants. We know there's some great rivalries in baseball: Yankees, Red Sox, Cubs, Cardinals, obviously. But the way Padres Dodgers has played out this decade, is this one of the more unique series going on right now in baseball? They've been in the postseason against each other 3 times this decade, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Well, yeah, I mean, I grew up in the Midwest. All I ever knew about was Dodgers Giants, right? That was the rivalry for so long, and sort of a hatred, between the teams. The Padres were a little bit of an afterthought. And what's striking to me, and I've covered series here over the years, is just what I said earlier, the change that's gone on in terms of that home field. It feels like a home field advantage. It feels like a place to go. And maybe it has to do with the Chargers leaving, and it's the only show in town. You guys can speak to that better. But I think that has elevated everything, because we know the Dodgers show up. The crowd shows up. Maybe it's late. Maybe they leave early. But certainly they show up, and then the playoffs they show up. So I look, it's not just the teams; it has to be the fan bases that come along for the ride. Giants have taken a dip in that category, right? Their attendance has come down. Padres has come up. So I think it's fun. I think Padres Dodgers has kind of replaced Dodgers Giants in some ways.
Which is honestly incredible to say. I mean, we know the history of Dodgers Giants, but the recent history, the here and now of what's playing out in Southern California between the Padres and the Dodgers. And we know the Dodgers went through the Padres last year, but it has really been fascinating to watch. Even the Roki Sasaki sweepstakes this offseason, where people here thought there was a realistic shot. And a lot of that had to do with both the Padres and the Dodgers. Jesse, we appreciate it. We're looking forward to the upcoming series this weekend in Chicago between the Padres and the Cubs. And thanks for doing it, as always, for San Diegans.
You got it. Anytime. Be well.
All right. Great stuff from Jesse Rogers, ESPN. The Padres have won again. They are 7-0. They complete the sweep. The bullpen, Robert Suarez, another save. Dylan Cease was outstanding. Jackson Merrill on contract day homers. And this unbelievable pinch me start to a season continues for San Diego on their way to Chicago at 7-0.
I mean,
I don't have anything to say.
I'm literally speechless. I'm legitimately speechless. I've been in this town for 15 years. Now it's not, like some people in this town, obviously, that have been in the media, but 15 years watching Padres baseball as closely as I have, covering this team for as long as I have. Yeah, we're watching history right now, folks. Like, we are legitimately watching and living in a time of history with this team. This ain't a fluke. This ain't a fluke 7-0 start. I can confidently say that. It's not like they started out the season against the A's and the Marlins. Guardians and the Braves, those are two good teams. I know the Braves are winless. I know the Guardians, obviously they got swept this series. They took two in Kansas City before they got here, and they have a good team as well. And yet the Padres just dominated, and I mean dominated, the Braves and the Guardians in back-to-back series to start their year. This is legit, folks.
It's another all facets win today where you get the pitching, you get the relief pitching, you get the power from Jackson Merrill, you double steal your way to a run in a 4-run 2-out rally. That's where this game was won. A 4-run 2-out rally. This has been the Mike Schilt formula. Be aggressive. It often pays off. They're running like the wind the first week of the season. They have so many steals. Fernando Tatis Jr. has 5 steals because he's credited with the steal today. He has 5 steals in 7 games.
Machado has 4 steals.
We've talked about, like, hey, is Tatis ever going to have a chance to steal 30 bases in a season? He's going to steal 30 bases this month on this pace. So you have something playing out right now in front of our eyes that is going to be so much fun to watch. No matter what, ebbs and flows come and the highs and the lows. But it's going to be so much fun to watch just based on what we've seen play out over 2 series.
The only thing that I'm like disappointed about.
What are you disappointed in?
Here's what I'm disappointed in. Right?
Okay, I'm listening.
Imagine if this weekend it was like Padres Dodgers.
That'll be unbelievable.
That's the only thing. I wish that they played the Dodgers earlier this year. I wish they did. Instead we got to wait till June for that to happen.
Wouldn't you prefer they're both 50-0 when they meet?
Well, yeah, that'd be awesome too.
I kid, obviously.
No, there is nothing to be disappointed about. They are playing fantastic baseball. Everything has gone right for them. The vibes could not be any better. Literally, like, they could not be any better.
Possible.
And I would also put in things that have gone the Padres' way this week. I hate seeing it, but Jerks and Profar, all we did offseason was talk about how they needed to resign Jerks and Profar. And when they lost Jerks and Profar to the Braves, I especially was upset about it and thought that was going to be a big loss to their team over the full year. They didn't sign him. He goes to the Braves and he gets suspended for PEDs. And you're almost looking at it as like, we dodged a massive bullet here. So you dodged a massive bullet with Profar. All of your new players that you've brought in have been awesome. Jackson Merrill is hitting 400 on the year. And, oh, by the way, they just signed him to a 9-year, $135 million contract. Manny's great. Tatis is great. Hey, Luis Ariz had a home run today. Everyone that is complaining about Luis Ariz, he's going to be fine. Schulte's making all the right moves. I mean, just like, you're speechless.
Completely speechless, but you know who won't be? Mike Schilt. And we'll hear from him coming up as he comments on a Padres series sweep again. Deja vu. San Diego 7-0. They'll be in Chicago on Friday morning to take on the Cubs to open their first road series of the year. Kevin Acee swings by at 5:30. Mark Ziegler will join us coming up at 5 p.m. on Magoon Guas decision. We've got you covered, Padres fans. This will be our wrap-up show on John and Jim. It continues next. All right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. The Padres are 7-0. We'll hear from Mike Schilt coming up. We'd love to hear from you if you're leaving Petco Park. And if you want to react, our phone lines are open, 877-767-4760. You can text us, 70470, start it with team. And Kevin Acey, our Padres insider, reaction to Jackson Merrill's big day, both on and off the field. He will join us coming up at 5:30. It's just sinking in each and every day that the Padres offseason, which was mired in a lot of who knows with the ownership and then Roki and not a ton of movement, they had a core that was capable. Obviously, we saw that play out in front of our eyes in 2024, and the core has played a big role, but they've added to it, Jim. I mean, it's the Gavin Sheets of the world as well that have played a significant role. And 7-0, I don't care who you've played. To your point earlier, I would take it against any team in baseball, 7-0, but they've done it against what we expect to be maybe two teams that at least will vie for playoff spots this year in Atlanta and Cleveland.
Yeah, it's two teams that are good teams. That's why I feel like it feels different to me. It's not like they went 7-0 against the Rockies and the Marlins to start out their season. Like you said, 7-0, 7-0. It's not hard. I mean, it's not easy to do. It's hard to do. To win 7 in a row at any point in your season is hard.
Yeah.
I mean, how long has it taken this team in years past to just win like 5 in a row at times? You know, can they put together some type of winning streak? Can they get some type of winning streak? And it was like nails on a chalkboard to watch this team try and put together a winning streak of that length. They already have a 7-game one under their belt, 7 games into the season. They're for real. They're legit. They are playing fantastic baseball. It is a dream start for all Padres fans. Now it's like, all right, you just keep riding this wave, and hopefully you get to Chicago. I'm not expecting them to go to Chicago and sweep the Cubs, but can you just go win another series? You know, that's what, remember Schulte's big, one of his big things last year early on, just taking 2 or 3. If you win 2 or 3 every series, you're like, what, 90 something games? I remember that.
Yeah. I think you're, 104 and 58, something like that.
Good.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've gotten out to this start and you've created this cushion to start out with. All you got to do now is just win series. And you look up at the end of the month,
you'll be well over 500.
I mean, you have a really good record.
2 out of 3 is 108 and 54, by the way. The Padres' longest winning streak a year ago, and they had that ridiculous second half. They never won more than 7 games at any point. They had 2 7-game winning streaks. Once they were 50 and 50, they were 50 and 50. They had 2 7-game winning streaks in the second half of that year. To your point, it's not easy to do. There are good teams that don't rattle off 7 consecutive wins in a season.
No.
And they've started their season with 7 consecutive wins. Today, Luis Ariz, who had struggled offensively, hits a home run. Today, Jackson Merrill, on his big day, hits a home run. Dylan Cease, quote unquote, bounces back with his performance. Robert Suarez, a scoreless 9th inning. What more is there to say?
Well,
we have a lot. I mean, we have 2 hours and 10 minutes. So I guess and then we have a wrap-up show tonight. So there's more to say.
Yeah, there's just a lot to be happy about. That's kind of how I view it. There's a lot to be happy about if you're a Padres fan, to be excited about, to embrace this, embrace the 7-0 start, embrace how well they have played to start the year, and to not go sit there and be like, well, the other shoe is going to fall someday. What if it doesn't? What if they continue to play at this not 7-0 clip for the 162-0, but what if they just
awesome,
100 games in the season, they're like 25 games over 500, 30 games over. Like, what if they are playing that well? Now, again, still early on, but I think this is as real of a start as you can get.
Yeah, the crazy scenario, I think you referenced it one time. There was the NOS between the Giants and the Braves back in the day where both teams won 100 games.
Yeah.
And one team was on the outside looking in. That can't happen in today's baseball, but one team can be a division winner and the other can be a wild card. We saw Giants-Dodgers recently where one won 107, the other team won 106. I guess the crazy scenario is you have a all-time franchise record year and you don't win the division. I think that's possible, but then again, you could still win in the postseason. By the way, this is the 5th time in baseball history 2 teams in baseball have started 7-0 or better. It's just the 5th time in baseball history. They've been playing this thing since there were horses and buggies. All right, the 1800s. It's the 5th time in the history of the sport you have 2 7-0 or better teams. 2003 was the last time. Before that, 1982. Before that, 1962. Before that, 1884. It doesn't happen every day. And to your point from earlier in the week, these two teams are in the same division in Southern California, and they're not meeting this weekend. They're not meeting until June, the Padres and the Dodgers.
No, they're not. And we'll talk about that and get to that when it happens. But, if the Dodgers lose tonight to the winless Braves, guess who's in first place in the division?
It is April 2nd, but yeah, it matters.
Yeah, and I know Jesse was like, yeah, the Rockies way down the National League West. Okay. I still think that the D-backs, the Giants, did the Giants win today, by the way? Did the Giants beat the Astros?
I could tell you with the benefit of the internet.
I like the internet.
And the Giants today scored more runs than the Astros.
So they won, and they're 5-1.
They're 5. Yeah, you have 5-1 team, 2 7-0 teams.
And I think the D-backs are also 3-1 or 4-2?
3-2, which is a good start.
3-2. They play the Yankees again tonight. The National League West at the start of this season feels like a juggernaut. Things obviously will change. I don't expect all of these teams to win 95 games. I don't even know if that's possible in one division. I don't think it is. But the competition has definitely risen here. Jesse, I think, pointed out, and he's absolutely right. The Dodgers have raised everybody's game. The Dodgers in their division being as good as they are has made everybody else raise their level of play. And you've seen that early on this season.
All right, we'll hear from Mike Schild coming up after a break. But first, let's go to the phones, Brent. We'll hear from Mike Schild on the other side to start off our 4 o'clock hour. Extended Padres wrap-up show coverage here on John and Jim for the next couple of hours. Kevin Acee will join us at 5:30. We'd love to hear from you. Our phone lines are open, 877-767-4760. And let's start with Dave, who's been patient on line 1. And Dave, you're back with us here on John and Jim.
Well, thanks again, guys. It's happy days are here again.
Yeah.
Although for Padre fans, we haven't had that many of them. I mean, I'm going back to my memory since '69, and I can't remember as good a stretch as this. And here's the important thing that we're not mentioning. They're doing this at home. I mean, the Padres have struggled at home for a long time. So, to come out this early and play this great of a brand of baseball is amazing in and of itself. And I'd like to thank Eric Hosmer for finally getting past his $13 million that we owe him this year, get him out of the way. And I'm sure that made a big difference in signing some money to Jackson, and hopefully the others, we start dumping off some of these dead weight contracts that we got ourselves into. And outside of that, guys, it's a thing about baseball. We know it's a damn long season. It's too bad we're not at game 162 right now, because it'd be one heck of an ending. So we just keep on keeping on, ride the wave. Let's keep it going as long as we can, and enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride. You're right, which is underway. But yeah, to your point, I mean, if you're running a marathon, you're not even at mile marker 1.
Not even close.
Right? I mean, we're 7 in to 162, but I prefer to be here than anywhere else, which is atop the division right now at 7-0 overall. Mike Schild is going to react to the 7-0 start, and he will do it on the other side of a break. In addition, Kevin Acee will join us at 5:30. His thoughts on Jackson Merrill getting the 9-year deal. So he'll join us coming up at 5:30. Kevin will be on his way for Chicago. The Padres will play a rare Friday day game, 11:20 Pacific, against the Cubs, where Jesse Rogers from ESPN, who joined us earlier, said, bring a umbrella and bring a coat, because it's going to be cold. Mm-hmm. Weather could be a factor. We'll see if the Padres can take this show on the road and continue their winning ways.
Yeah, we'll see if they could play some, good baseball on the road. They've obviously shown they can play flawless baseball at home. But we'll see how they are on the road. Because
can they deal with that environment in Sacramento, that hostile environment of 9,000 people?
I think they can. So they play a 6-game roadie, right?
I think it's right. 3 Chicago. Is it 3 in Sacramento?
I think so. Finish 4-2. You are 11-2 on the year.
And I would ask you,
is that good?
Mike Schild on the other side, John and Jim.
All right, this update is brought to you by Progressive. It is a final Padres win again. This time they win 5-2 over the Cleveland Guardians, completing the 3-game sweep and also completing the homestand sweep. They are now 7-0, increasing their best record to start their season in franchise history. And oh, by the way, Jackson Merrill signed a 9-year, $135 million contract extension earlier this morning. Magoon Guath last night also, he announced that he is returning to San Diego State. He has taken his name out of the transfer portal. He will also enter the NBA draft process. And this update has been brought to you by Progressive.
All right, hour 3, John and Jim. Kevin AC at 5:30. We have full reaction to the Padres starting 7-0. We'll hear from Mike Shildt shortly, Padres manager. I don't think there'll be much to complain about. Shildt is always an optimist. They were up and down in the first half of the year last year. A lot of down, truthfully. 4 or 5 game losing streaks. He remained level-headed, optimistic, supportive, backing his team. It certainly paid off in the long run. They won 93 games, but I mean, he's going to be over the moon today. He had the Merrill extension this morning where he was there. He's got his team playing well. Merrill homers today. Like, what is Mike Shildt saying today? We're going to hear from him shortly.
Here's the thing. I think when we hear from Shildt, he is going to sound no different than if they lost 7 in a row. I think he's going to be pretty even keeled through this process. I just don't see Shildt, knowing how long a baseball season is, looking at this and being like, job's finished. I don't think anybody's thinking that.
Well, of course not.
Fans are through the roof. We're through the roof, obviously for good reason. And as we should be. Everybody should be excited about this. But I do know that the players in that clubhouse know how long a season it is. I know Shildt knows, having a 7-game winning streak inside your season doesn't mean anything unless you capitalize on it and continue to play good baseball for 5 months. So
you don't think they're looking at postseason opponents right now? We're like, are we going to be the first wild card, or have we won the division?
Where do we match up?
Yeah, no, you're right. Of course, everyone understands it. They're a veteran group. I mean, yeah, they have a 21-year-old that's kind of leading the way here, and the story of the day in Jackson Merrill. But this is a veteran group with a good majority of their players in their 30s. Do we have Mike Shildt? We will in a moment. He has just spoken with the media. The Padres will travel for Chicago, where they will embark on their first road trip of the year. How about Petco? 6 consecutive. No, it wasn't 6 sellouts.
No, it wasn't.
37,000 last night, another 30,000 or so plus today. How could you not be over the moon if you're a Padres fan? We've seen the reaction. John and Jim, our post-game wrap-up shows. It's been incredible if you've been a Padres fan to start this year. It's truly been incredible for the fans. That's who you feel best for. With the Merrill news today, with the start, it's a great time to be a San Diego sports fan right now, including a fan of the San Diego Padres. It really is.
And it's not just the Padres, by the way. You put out a tweet today. What was it like?
It's a great time to be a fan of San Diego sports, right?
Yeah, San Diego State getting Magoon Guath back, also having the commitment from Miles Bird. Everyone was freaking out about that. SDFC, by the way, 3 home matches, 3 sellouts. They are second in the Western Conference. They have beaten both LA teams this year. LAFC in one of the more exciting matches you could watch last Saturday night at Snapdragon Stadium. It was a full sellout there. They won 3-2. Amazing atmosphere. They play again on Saturday here at Snapdragon Stadium, which you can hear, by the way, right here on the station at 7:30 against Seattle Sounders. Continuing to keep the good times rolling here in San Diego. There's not just the Padres. It feels like all the sports in town are really all clicking at once.
No doubt. And I tweet out, what a time to be a San Diego sports fan. It's always a good time to be in San Diego, where this weekend it's going to be 70 and sunny all weekend long. All right.
Good.
Let's hear from Mike Shildt. I don't know where this started. Maybe with Dylan Cease. It typically does start with starting pitching, but this was Mike Shildt, and it starts with the 7-0 start for the Padres.
Yeah, just good baseball every night, guys. On point. Every area. Dylan set the tone today on the mound. Offense was really good. Defense was, I'm sure we'll get to it, very clean again. Helped us win a ball game on the basis. It's total team effort, 1 through 26.
What stood out to you today about Dylan's effort?
Well, lot of things, quite frankly. I think the thing that stuck out the most was the changeup continues to be a real factor. There's some two-seamers that got some outs, but the changeup, as we talk about pitching, the disruption of timing, I mean, Dylan's got 2+ pitches with the heater that has an elite ride to it. Slider's filthy. It was on display today. And now you couple that with the change of a pace with the changeup, and then you can throw something on the inner half to righties. It's pretty special. He was really good again today.
It seems to be a theme every game we're talking about it, but just the hustle, the pressure that you've been able to put on the opposing team, and no different today. Fernando with the 2 out, hustling, getting down the line, keeping the inning going, then the first and third steal that opens up the big inning for you. It just seems like relentless was the word that was used yesterday. How encouraging it to see a consistent relentlessness about your offense.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what this is about, bringing it every day, regardless of circumstances. 2 out, nobody on in the third, Fernando busting his tail down the line, starts it, a 4-run inning. They were able to do something with Manny up. Manny has a good at bat. Louis, of course, goes the other way, and Jackson with the big blow once we get things going a little bit. So, pitching a lot of different ways, and so it was on display in the third.
Speaking of Jackson, can you guys just speak to how he went about this day? Big day for him, and then meets the moment with the home run too.
Yeah, congratulations again to Jackson. That's just fantastic and very, very well deserved. Really happy for him. Really happy for the Padres organization. The city of San Diego, a couple things, the home run was great. Let's don't kid ourselves. One of the reasons he got the extension, but, 2 other things that really were on display for me today was just, Jackson's, how he carried himself in the press conference today, and just how authentic he is and what he's really ultimately about. And that's playing baseball with his teammates and winning baseball games for the city of San Diego and this organization and being there with his brothers. I really, that's the essence of Jackson. And the other part that was, the essence of Jackson Merrill was the base running in the 5th. The homers are great, but he's out there hustling. Again, Scan talked about the identity of a team. Now Jackson's going to continue to be a part of a group that's the identity of this franchise, with a lot of other really good players. But him busting his tail to beat that force in the 5th, that says everything about Jackson Merrill.
And back to the stolen base, can you speak to the decision that the second baseman has to make when he cuts that throw off and try to go get Toddy when Orions retreats?
Yeah, I mean, it's first and third. There's a lot of different nuances to first and third baseball, offensively and defensively. And, we're looking to take advantage on both sides of the baseball and look to make, on the offense side, and make sure it's very challenging.
Iglesias, I mean, last season you lost a defender in Kim who was pretty outstanding, but to have Iglesias and have him be able to kind of plug in almost anywhere in that infield, what does that do for you guys?
Quite a bit. You're able to get Manny off his feet today. We got a guy that has really special talent with his glove, but is overall, really winning player. I alluded to that in spring training. He's shown it over the years in this league, and that's on display for us. Glad he's on our club. But, huge play in the 7th. Just a really high baseball IQ play. He does a lot of nuanced things you see in the game that just make a lot of sense and don't show up in the box score. But that was a really nice play. He's a good player. The double play ball in the 8th was pretty good too. That was a big play. That was a big league double play. Crony and Bogey.
I love when he does that. When he doesn't get asked about something that he feels like he should have been asked about, he's got a mental note. And before he leaves the stage, the podium, he's prepared to talk about it. And it was huge. The tying run was at the plate in the 8th against Adrian Morejon. It was 5-2. A run was in. First and third one out, and he spins a double play ball, 4-6-3, gets out of it.
Yeah, and he wasn't sharp, Adrian Morejon, today.
Right.
And he still gets out of it. You're right. Schulte always...
Doesn't he do that? It happened 10 times last year.
Oh, for sure. But it happened more so in losses.
Right. Like, hey, nobody mentioned the middle relief we got there out of Brian Hoeing.
Yeah. Like, hey, Steven,
I know we lost 9-0, but Kolek.
We had one hit today, but do you guys see Steven Kolek pitched 3 shutout innings?
3 innings, allowed just 3 hits and 2 runs.
Yeah, he does that a lot. And as far as I'm concerned, Schulte could do whatever the hell he wants at this point, as far as like saying things. And I will eat it up. We might rib Schulte here and there on this show for things that he says, but We have always consistently said we think he's a good manager. He absolutely is. And if this team wins, who cares how weird Schulte is? Who cares how, Schulte constantly backs his players, even if they're on a 0 for 50 slump? Like, if they're winning at this rate, if you say whatever the hell you want, my guy, you do whatever the hell you want. Just winning makes everything okay.
Dude, Mike Schulte is a manager.
Give it to me.
It's a decent sample size with St. Louis and San Diego. It's not the largest, but he's managed in 620 games. His career record in the regular season is 352 and 268. He's over 80 games over 500. His career winning percentage as a manager is 568. That's unbelievably good. And that's over, again, parts of 6 seasons now as a major league manager. So Mike Schulte, whether it was St. Louis, now here in San Diego, I think he's proven a lot of doubters wrong. Now, has he gotten to a World Series? No. And everyone wants to get there. Mm-hmm. But you can't cheat the system. We can't fast forward this. And in fact, I don't want to. I want to watch this thing play out.
I do too.
And I hope at some point sooner rather than later they are in a World Series.
It's crazy how the start of this season in particular, just looking at the National League West with the Dodgers and the Padres now 7-0. We mentioned it. Giants are 5-1. They're probably through the roof, and they're in,
third place
in the division. You're like,
right.
Huh?
Right. We're in Arizona. They're at Yankee Stadium. They're 3-2 overall, and they're in 4th place. In the division. Yeah.
The Padres right now. I know you love run differential, John.
I do, especially 7 games in.
They're plus 25 in run differential, but they've only allowed 11 runs
in 7 games. Is that right?
Unless it
does that include today?
It has updated. It says right here 7-0, 36 runs scored, 11 runs allowed.
That's unbelievable. They've had 3 shutouts.
What?
7-0 San Diego. If you missed it earlier, we'll share some of what Jackson Merrill had to say on this special day for him and the organization. Jackson Merrill gets a 9-year extension. He then follows that up by homering a night after he homered. So we'll hear from Jackson Merrill, more from Mike Schulte this morning at that press conference, AJ Preller as well. Kevin Acee will join us at 5:30. We have extended post-game reaction. It's a wrap show edition of John and Jim. Stay with us. All right, so what could you do with an extra $75,000 right now, or even a couple $100,000? If you own a home, you can get that money in less than a week with Loan Pronto. Hey guys, it is Schaefer, and Loan Pronto is the leader in quickly converting your home equity into cold hard cash, so you can pay off all your credit cards or start that home remodel. Loan Pronto has several easy options to let you access the cash from your home. There's virtually no paperwork, no cumbersome process, no junk fees, and often no appraisal. Listen, the average homeowner now has over $300,000 in equity. That's your money. Use it. One client got $150,000 out, paid off all their credit cards, 2 car loans, and a personal loan, cutting their monthly expenses by $1,500. You can get approved in as little as 1 day. So act now with no hard credit pull up front. LoanPronto.com or 619-207-4336. Get the money you need for anything. 619-207-4336 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781. Subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org. All right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760 here until 6 p.m. Kevin AC, full reaction to Jackson Merrill's big day in more ways than one as he homered. Also signed a 9-year, $135 million deal with a chance to make it $204 million, for whatever that's worth.
Yeah. I mean, that was nice this morning.
I think he said during his press conference, and we'll hear from Merrill and Preller and Schilt from this morning. I think he said during his press conference when I was listening in that his brother was, when he told his family, which was yesterday, his brother's like, why are you so nonchalant?
Like, why aren't you happy?
And he said of his family, his mom was the most emotional. I mean, the one thing I would say that when you are a player and you've put yourself in that position and now you're making the life-changing money, you almost have to do everything in your power. Everyone has felt this with some type of success in their career. You have to pretend as if nothing has changed. Mm-hmm. Because if you allow anything to impact who you are, you risk something changing from how good you've been. Like, you don't want anything to change when you're Jackson Merrill because everything's gone so perfectly. So the nonchalant, that kind of works for me because it's like, hey, I'm the same guy I was yesterday, today.
Because we've seen a lot of players in every sport sign big contracts and they're not the same player after they sign those contracts. Anthony Rendon, a guy that Jesse Rogers mentioned to us today, he, won a World Series with the Nationals, had a great season, was really good for them, signed that big deal with the Angels, and he has been awful since then. His life
hasn't been on field.
No, his life on the field has been just horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got all that money, so I mean, I guess he's laughing all the way to the bank. But still, you want to give these types of contracts to players that you feel won't, like you said, change anything about them after they get the big payday. Jackson could have easily waited this thing out and gotten a much larger contract down the road. But hearing him talk about San Diego and how he just wants to be a Padre and he just loves his organization and all he cares about is winning, that's the perfect type of player that you want to give a contract to and that you feel comfortable with giving a lot of money to. And he could have gotten more money, but he's just built differently where it feels like he looked at the contract and he looked at the money and he's like, yeah, I'm good with that. And he even mentioned it today. He's like, yeah, there's some players out there that, are getting $700 million, cough, cough, Juan Soto. And I'm just all about ball. I just want to win. If I can't live off $135 million for the rest of my life, there's something wrong with me.
It's not just that, and I agree, and we'll hear from Merrill on the deal in a moment. It's the fact that by taking this deal, you're helping out AJ Preller and this organization to build around you. Now, they're built right now, but there's going to be multiple eras of Merrill's time here because as Machado and Bogarts age out, you want to make sure you're replacing, and you have the money to do that. As King and Cease move on, if they do, maybe one of them stays. As Ariz moves on, you need to be able to keep this thing going. And if you overpaid here, Merrill would still be a big winner personally, but would the team be a big winner? This was Jackson Merrill earlier today on the deal.
I think just even hearing like an opportunity to sign with the San Diego Padres is enough for me, but I also feel like there comes a line where you know your worth, you know your value. Listen, I know like there's contracts out there that are beyond absurd. They're super amounts of money, but having a relationship with a real human being and a real team like I have here, you can't beat that. You can't just sign for $700 million and want everything to be perfect. I got people all around the clubhouse that are supporting me, supporting my family. They ask about my personal life every day. So, I'm just gracious for that. And I know it's going to be the same way for the next 9 years.
God, I love this kid, man.
The best.
How could you not love Jackson Merrill is my question to anybody out there that's a Padres fan that is like, I don't know about this guy.
I'm not sold.
I'm not really sold yet. That's a lot of money to give to a 21-year-old.
Right.
No, there is nothing to not like about Jackson Merrill. You hear him speak. He sounds like a 10-year vet. And to your point that you made and Jackson talking about it there, like I got guys in that clubhouse that, I love and guys that I want to see succeed as well too. And if I, only think about myself, like this is not an individual sport. This is a team game. And I know my worth, but I also know that to me, winning is everything. And the only way that we're going to accomplish that here is by helping everybody around me. And so signing this contract it's going to be able to do that. Like AJ Preller down the road, when Jackson Merrill, 3 years from now, he's made, 4 All-Star games. He's top 5 in MVP, hopefully. And he just continues to get better and better. Dude's going to be making AAV of 15 million per year. And that gives Preller an opportunity with a stud in center field, not taking up a bunch of the money to go out and build around Jackson Merrill. And I just love that about the kid. It's just such a mature way of thinking about things when we are in a world in sports where it is mostly 99% of the time all about money.
Yeah, like to your point, let's say you're Merrill. Would you prefer 9 years ago to have another 20 million in the bank but not win at the highest level? Or would you prefer that because of the offer you took, it allowed the Padres, hypothetically speaking, to keep Michael King for the next 4 years? And then by having King on the roster for an additional 4 years, you have more bites at the apple of trying to win in the postseason. I think Merrill has answered that. Let's hear from Merrill here, Brent. This is the cut 4 on what he hopes to do. I mean, he answers it here. This is what Merrill said today on what he hopes to do over the next 9 years.
Winning and just winning only. There's so much in a contract with money and all that, but my goal is to win. It's always been to win. It's always been to dominate with my boys on the field. And I'm just happy I get to do it for a long amount of time now.
What wall can I run through right now? That one over there?
Because I wouldn't suggest it.
That just, if you're a Padres fan, it makes you so hyped. You're like, yes, I love this kid. I love it. He's all about winning. That's all he cares about. Playing ball, winning games, being with the boys, having fun, balling out. Guy's a stud, man.
He really is.
Kid's an absolute stud. I'm so happy for all Padres fans because we've been in this town long enough and we've seen the entirety of AJ Preller's tenure here as general manager. And it's been really miss after miss after miss as far as guys that he has drafted, right? Not trades or signings, right?
Mm-hmm.
But guys that he has drafted that have come through this system, miss. And we're sitting here like, when is AJ Preller going to draft somebody, have them be developed through the system and hit at a pretty high clip at the big league level? Look no further than Jackson Merrill.
This was Merrill postgame. AJ Cassavell on social media. We're 7-0. If we didn't win that game today, I would have been pissed.
Yeah, dude, that's who he is, man.
On the day that he signed a 9-year, $135 million contract. Speaking of AJ Preller, he reacts to what this means for the team on the other side. We'll hear from AJ Preller on the other side. Your chance to win, by the way, Willie Nelson and Bob Dylan tickets later this hour, and Kevin Acee will join us at 5:30. For Aztec fans out there, you're going to hear from Mark Ziegler at 5 p.m. on that Magoon Guath news that he's withdrawn from the transfer portal. Mark will join us at 5 p.m. We've got you covered until 6 p.m. You'll hear from AJ Preller, Padres GM. Up next, John and Jim.
All right, this update's brought to you by Progressive Insurance. The Padres remain unbeaten as they sweep the Guardians today 5-2. They move to 7-0 on the season, just adding to the best start in franchise history. Oh, by the way, Jackson Merrill, he's pretty good. Hit a home run today. He also signed a 9-year, $135 million contract extension earlier this morning. More reaction of that coming up next here from AJ Preller. Moving over to Aztecs news, Magoon Guath, he announced last night that he will be returning to San Diego State. He will not be entering the transfer portal. He also is going to go through the NBA draft process. And tonight at 6 p.m., it's SDFC Midweek Live, hosted by our very own Darren Smith, starting at 6 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. And this update's been brought to you by Progressive Insurance.
Coming up in 15 minutes, your chance to win a pair of tickets to see both Willie Nelson and Bob Dylan May 15th here in San Diego. And then at 5 p.m., Mark Ziegler from the UT on Magoon Guath's kind of earth-shattering decision last night to withdraw from the portal and return to San Diego State if he doesn't enter the draft. So Mark will join us at 5, and then Kevin Acee to recap an unbelievable first week of the season that includes a Jackson Merrill extension. Kevin will join us at 5:30.
Well, did you guys hear that Kevin got mentioned in the press conference today?
I did. I love that part of the whole press conference with Kev. And that also, too, by the way, Annie tweeted it out. Let me pull this tweet up because she nailed it as well. And this is just proves another point as to how Jackson just like gets it.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just is wise beyond his years. Let me pull this up here. So this morning when Jackson Merrill mentioned Kevin Acee and like, hey, I know you're going to be writing about my slumps. Where is it? This is what Annie said, and I completely agree with her. The fact that Merrill understands and accepts that articles will be written when he slumps, then uses said articles to make himself better and never treats reporters any differently, parentheses, so long as the criticism is fair, shows the maturity that he has.
Yeah, there's a lot of players that don't treat media similarly to that. Not to say that Merrill always will be perfect with the media. It's not the easiest thing or part of a job for a baseball player. But yeah, I was thinking that as well when I was listening in. So AJ Preller spoke. We just heard from Jackson Merrill. AJ Preller was there. John Seidler was there. Mike Schilt was there. This was Preller on what this deal means for the future of the Padres.
Yeah, I think continuing to add to the core group of guys that are going to bring a championship to San Diego. And I think also, again, like obviously with Manny, Xander, Jake, and then Toddy and Jackson, again, like different stages of their careers, different age brackets. I think just wanted to make sure we talk about it all the time as a leadership team that when fans of San Diego buy a ticket, they know who they're going to come see. They know they're going to see excellence. They're going to see something special. And Jackson's added to that big time here in the last few years and throughout the system. And I think having players that are spaced out a little bit, that was all part of what we talked about. But you just need like outstanding players that are championship caliber guys, and Jackson's clearly one of those.
Are you hearing the shift, by the way? From playoff caliber, we want to win, we want to get to the playoffs. He mentioned it multiple times, multiple different conversations he had today, that it's now about being World Series caliber, bringing a championship. He said championship twice in that soundbite. Again, it's one thing to say that, but he doesn't always say that. They've talked about reaching postseason, sustainability, continuity. He's talking about championships now. We haven't always heard that from AJ Preller.
No, it's also nice to start out just 6-0 at the time of this press conference.
Yeah, but championships don't have a ton to do with 6-0.
I know. I get that. The expectations are to win a World Series.
Mm-hmm.
And, when we're critical of the team, I just always point back to what they say. And if they're telling you that their expectations are winning a World Series, why shouldn't we have that bar be right there with them?
Great point.
So, look, eventually this team will lose a game this year. Maybe. They might have some losing streaks. Maybe. And when we're critical of the team, we are going off of the bar that they have told you, which is World Series. That's their expectation. So as a fan out there, that's what I'm looking at. What does the organization think of itself? What does the organization have expectations of themselves for? And if it's World Series, then I'm going to treat it as such. If they don't win, then that will be deemed a failure because of their expectations where they have set them at, which is pretty damn high and the highest you could get.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And that's why when we are critical, when inevitably there's adversity over the course of a year, you have to treat it through the lens of they are trying to win at the highest level. They're not trying to just get by.
No.
They're not trying to be, middle of the pack.
Right.
They're not trying to be the Miami Marlins. They're trying to be a team that wins in the NL West, which is easier said than done. We need to hear from Mike Schilt. And I know we heard from him post-game, but Mike Schilt is the best when it comes to someone like Jackson Merrill because he's just such a Schilty guy, obviously. So Mike Schilt was there, and he was asked about what Jackson Merrill means and about this deal as well.
How long do we have? You're talking about a real blessing. Congratulations again, man.
Thank you.
Really well deserved. Get the privilege to have, known him for a couple of years now, and just, the talent is the talent. It's clearly special. But what resonates with me is Jackson's authenticity and who he is as a person. That's what really stood out to me initially. When you've got that kind of character and that kind of mindset for other people, the organization, his teammates, and then the dedication for himself to be great and to go compete, it's very sincere. And then you couple that with talent. So, it's a blessing to be with this guy and work with him, and privileged to be with him for the next several years. He's joining a core group of players that are very special here. He fits right in, and we're really excited about it.
Manny is still the best player on this team. Biggest contract, biggest superstar player, most, he has the most accolades of anybody in that clubhouse, right? But
yeah,
last year when Jackson Merrill got brought up, and the energy that he brought into that clubhouse, it was missing. And so I could argue Jackson Merrill is the most important player on this team because of the energy he brings, because of the attitude that he has, because of just the matureness that he has as a baseball player, his drive, his, he's a baseball junkie. And Manny even talked about it before today's game, how hard he works and how he is literally at the field all the time. And that type of stuff, it rubs off on other players. And I can't help but think that Jackson Merrill has rubbed off on this team so much that this is why this team has been playing like this for the last year plus now.
It's funny you say that. I agree with your point on Machado. Like, I start there when I think about position players, when I think about leaders, I would start with Machado in terms of his impact on a team. But I actually think there's a subjectivity there, and things do change over time. So while Manny maybe has been their most productive or accomplished hitter, that's not to say Fernando Tatis Jr. couldn't fill that role this year, or that Jackson Merrill couldn't fill that role this year or in the future. So I don't think there's some guarantee. Like, I don't think it's automatic that Manny Machado is clearly their best quote unquote player. I think he's been, but no, I don't. I think that if Fernando Tatis Jr. has a better season than him, then he has a better season than him. And I think if Jackson Merrill has a better season than him, then he has a better season than him. I don't think it's that clear cut that Manny Machado is their best offensive weapon. I do think he's their leader. I do think he's probably their most impactful. I don't think it lasts forever. And I think there'll be a moment in time where it's Tatis or Merrill. And I don't think it's that far off if I was guessing.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I think what I'll say instead is Manny has the best resume in that clubhouse.
Not close.
Not even close.
Not close.
He's the clear-cut Hall of Famer.
Not close. I agree. I think he is destined eventually for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have the World Series rings like a couple other people in the clubhouse have, but
no, I agree with that point.
His numbers,
resume secure. Yeah. Xander's got a nice resume too. Manny's is better.
So
but Xander's got the rings.
I still
whose career would you take?
I was about to say, I don't know, man. I'd probably take Xander's.
I would too. If their careers ended today, I would take Xander's.
I just am saying, when Manny Machado walks in that clubhouse,
I'm with you.
You know it. I'm not saying you don't know it when Jackson Merrill walks into that clubhouse, but Manny's different. Manny's the superstar. Jackson Merrill, in my eyes, is a budding superstar as well. On the national stage, though, probably not there yet.
No, he's not.
Locally, kid's a superstar.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this town is, he's beloved in this town already, and he's played less than 200 games already with this team.
Mm-hmm.
You just knock on wood that the kid stays healthy and that he continues to get better and better. I mean, he's hitting 400 on the year. He's been incredible. I just am looking at from like an attitude standpoint, Jackson Merrill, his attitude, I feel like has rubbed off on this team more than Manny's vibe, if that makes sense.
I mean, honestly, the way I'll look at it eventually, because your points are valid, and again, it's subjective, and different years, different players are better. To me, what's going to matter the most is who carries them in a postseason.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen Tatis be brilliant 2020, 24, small sample sizes.
Yeah.
Haven't seen it yet from Manny, Merrill, again, small sample size. Who's going to carry them to the next World Series, right? Who's going to help them get to their next World Series appearance? And hopefully Jackson Merrill is a guy that's going to have a chance to play not just in one World Series, but multiple World Series for the Padres in his career. I think it's at least possible. He's only 21.
Mm-hmm. He's just fearless. He doesn't care about anybody on the mound. He wants to compete. He wants to face the best. I'm running out of things to say about Jackson Merrill today, John. I feel like I've said everything about him, but then you keep talking and there's just more things that you're discovering and there's more, words to describe Jackson, all positive. It is the Positivity John and Jim show for the foreseeable future until, we see what happens.
Until they're down 2-0 on Friday morning.
Yeah, then fire everybody.
All right. Who wants 2 free tickets to see Willie Nelson and Bob Dylan on May 15th at the North Island Chula Vista Amphitheater? If you want those 2 free tickets, call 877-767-4760 right now. First 2 callers will be contestants for trivia. The number to call is 877-767-4760. We have 2 free tickets to see both Willie Nelson and Bob Dylan May 15th at the North Island Chula Vista Amphitheater. The number to call is 877-767-4760. Call right now. Mark Ziegler on the return of Magoon Guath for San Diego State at 5. Kevin AC on all the positivity for the Padres at 5:30. It's John and Jim. We should mention on a day like today that Kevin will join us at 5:30. And Mark Ziegler is going to join us at 5 to talk more about Magoon Gwath, who, remember, he was in the portal. He withdrew from the portal. That was the decision that he made yesterday. So he's no longer in the portal. He has withdrawn from the portal. He's still going to go through this draft process. But if he doesn't go into the draft, he will return to San Diego State. That was the announcement. What we should mention today and what was discussed today during this press conference was what A.J. Preller had to say about how Peter Seidler would have felt about something like this, because Seidler was the owner when the Padres drafted Jackson Merrill, and according to A.J. Preller, would routinely ask about Jackson, who, by the way, during various points of his minor league career, did struggle in the minor leagues, including as recently as just a couple of years ago in A-ball. But Peter was very aware of Merrill's potential. Remember, they initially engaged Jackson Merrill in extension talks before he ever reached the major league. So this all started under Peter's watch. It's been completed or continued under John Seidler's watch. But you would imagine that today would have been one of the special days as well for Peter Seidler if he was still around to see this and still owning this club.
Yeah, that's the only thing that bums you out. Actually, it bums you out a lot.
Yep.
Peter never got to see Jackson Merrill play at the big league level. Now, he obviously knew of Jackson Merrill because he was drafted in 2021. But all I can think about when you say things, when you hear AJ Preller talk about Peter and how much he would have loved this day, is, man, he would have loved to see Jackson Merrill play baseball. He would have, I know it. He would have instantly become Peter Seidler's favorite player. There's no doubt in my mind. Just how much Peter loved this team, how much he was a baseball junkie himself, and to see how much Jackson Merrill loves baseball and loves the Padres and, you know, his attitude and everything. There's no doubt in my mind that Peter Seidler would have absolutely beloved and adored Jackson Merrill.
It was nearly 2 years ago to the day. It was February 28th, 2023, when Seidler said, 1 year soon, the baseball gods will smile on the San Diego Padres and we will have a parade. That still could be an accurate statement. Yeah. It's only been 2 years. Now, Peter won't be here, unfortunately, to see it, but you know the vision of the organization is clear. I give John Seidler and this group a lot of credit for making their intentions known now. This is what Jesse Rogers from ESPN said. I asked him, I said, does this speak to their stability? He said, absolutely. This isn't every organization in the sport. There are a lot of clubs that let players walk. They see these processes out. They don't yearn for these extensions this early. They don't dish out $100 million contracts. Now, we knew they did it with Peter. We didn't know if they would do it with John. To his credit, and this has been no time at all, John has been putting pen to paper, so to speak, signing some checks here. So that's a credit. John Seidler's not Peter. No, like, we're all unique. So he's going to have some, you know, some positives, and Peter might have some positives. Others might have negatives. I'm just saying they're not going to be the same. It's not necessarily fair to compare, but I would say, John Seidler, this is a nice start, not because of what they're saying, but because of what they're doing.
Absolutely. I said, look, I'm going to have an arm's length, you know, kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm going to be at arm's length with going the trust factor for John Seidler. I'm going to need to see it. All right. You can say these things and they're great, but I'm going to need to see it. And what did we say? It would be a nice thing if you signed either Michael King or you had an extension for Jackson Merrill. Then your words are matching, like everything's matching up here with your actions. So look, it's still very early in the John Seidler tenure. It's literally been a month, 7 games into his tenure. But signing Jackson Merrill as your very first thing that's on your resume as chairman of the team, you could not have started out better. You could not have started out better, especially with this kid. I feel so confident that Jackson is going to live up to this contract and not have it at, you know, year 4. We're like, why did they sign this kid?
You know what? I wouldn't even do it. I don't envision it either. But if you walked me through a world, because nobody can predict the future, health, you know, it's baseball. You're hitting some round ball with a round bat, and he's not using a torpedo bat. So it's baseball. We've seen weirder things happen. But I'm telling you, Jim, if it happened to not work out, my first thought process wouldn't be what was the Padres organization / AJ Preller and that whole team thinking. I wouldn't go there. I would actually be more inclined to credit them for the willingness to do it, similar to trading for Juan Soto. Did the Soto trade work perfectly? Let's be honest. It didn't. It worked well enough.
Still would have done it, though.
That's the thing. That's the key part. Would you have done it with the benefit of hindsight? I would have. And the thing with Merrill, nobody knows what the next 9 years looks like. And even if it's not what we've seen over these 150 to 200 games, I'm not going to discredit the organization for being aggressive here and trying to lock up a player that we've all seen with our own eyes have a potential to be game-changing.
Well, let me ask you this. If I give you $1,000 right now.
Thank you. Is that it?
No, that's not it.
I'll take it.
First off, if I had $1,000, I wouldn't give it to you.
Okay.
But say I did, hypothetically, give you $1,000, and there's a bet out there that he's going to live up to this contract and he's going to hit.
So there's two things. I can either put it on like red or black. I can put the $1,000 on he performs or he doesn't perform.
Yeah.
Does he perform the contract, outperform the contract, or underperform the contract?
I can tell you what I would do.
I'll put on outperform.
I would 100% without hesitation almost.
Well, especially because of the dollar figure, because let's be fair. Fernando Tatis Jr. as a young player got a much different deal. Now, longer years, more money.
Called a statute contract.
Right. And then, of course, there's been the adversity in there. Now, Tatis absolutely can still live up to this contract. He is a game-changing player in his own right. He does things differently than Jackson Merrill. But the thing with Merrill, Jim, is you don't need him to hit 500 career home runs. He's making a good amount, but he's not being paid like a top 8 player in the game. He's being paid like he's a performer, but he's not being paid like he's Juan Soto.
No, he's not. And I still think he can definitely perform at that of the players that you mentioned, their levels. I don't know if he's going to hit 45 home runs in a season or have a 970 OPS in 1 year. But hey, I mean, look, the kid has the ability, dude. He's got the ability.
I mean, two home runs, obviously, here in the last 2 days. We've seen that. He'll go through these stretches. He did it last year where he's hit like 4 in 5 games, right? He's hitting 3 homers in 4 games. You're right. I think maybe he's still growing into his body, but he is, I mean, for a 21-year-old, he's as developed as you could possibly want at the major league level. But yeah, I guess the point being that at this price tag, he's closer to what they paid Jay Cronenworth than what they paid Fernando Tatis Jr. Not very close. Cronenworth 80 over 7. Yeah, this is 135, but it's more years. So it's actually a much more similar deal to the Cronenworth deal than it is to, for example, Machado, Bogarts, Tatis.
Bottom line, I'm betting on the kid to succeed.
I'd bet on him if they paid him more money.
I just am. Yeah, you're right. If they gave him a $200 million contract, I'd be like, I'm betting on him to succeed.
I agree with you.
I have seen enough to feel confident enough that he is going to perform. Tell me I'm wrong. I mean, has anybody seen something out there from Jackson Merrill where you're like, yeah, I don't know yet about this kid? Because I've yet to see it.
Yeah, like what is the part of the game where you're like, if I could put pixie dust on this area of his game, in what manner would you do it? I mean, like you said, is he ever would I want him to hit 45 home runs? Sure, but you want every position player to hit 45 home runs.
I'm more or less talking about, to use another analogy, using like a black light on a sheet. Where's the part of the sheet that you would uncover? You're like, I don't know about that. I don't like that part.
Right.
Like I doing a black light on Jackson Merrill comes back
pretty
clean to me.
So far, so good.
There's not one thing that I'm like, nah, I don't know about that. His attitude, the way he plays the game, he's out there every day. He performs. Everything about the kid. Love it.
Kevin Acee with more. He will join us at 5:30 on this maybe franchise-altering day for the Padres, locking up Jackson Merrill, doing it at a quote-unquote affordable price. Mark Ziegler, though, on the other side. Magoon Guath, he was in the portal. He's withdrawn his name. If he doesn't go into the draft, he'll return to San Diego State. How did this come to be behind the scenes? Mark will join us with his reporting on the other side. Then again, Kevin Acee from the UT with much more on the 7-0 start, the Jackson Merrill extension. We have Jim's back page still to come. Padres are 7-0, but Mark Ziegler from the UT on the Aztecs in the portal. That's next. Hour 4, John and Jim.
All right, this update's brought to you by Progressive. Padres, they continue to win. Beat the Guardians today, 5-2, sweeping the Guardians and sweeping their first homestand of the year, going 7-0. They have an off day tomorrow. They'll take on the Cubbies over the weekend for a 3-game series. The other big news of the day, Jackson Merrill signing his 9-year, $135 million contract extension. And, oh, by the way, last night, Magoon Gwath, he announced that he is removing his name from the transfer portal. He will be returning to San Diego State while also testing out the NBA draft process. And this update's been brought to you by Progressive.
All right, final hour, John and Jim. Should be a good one. Mark Ziegler will swing by hopefully momentarily. So we'll try to connect with Mark Ziegler as the music cuts off. And Kevin Acee, our Padres insider, on this record-breaking start. It is. The Padres are 7-0. They completed that sweep of the Guardians today, 5-2. And, oh, by the way, Jackson Merrill gets a 9-year extension today, totaling at least $135 million guaranteed. So we're going to catch up with Mark hopefully momentarily, and then Kevin Acee in about 30 minutes.
What else do you want to see happen, like, in the sports world in this town? That's realistic. That would just be like, oh, there's another thing.
We'll talk about that in a moment, but right now we do have Mark Ziegler. His reporting has been outstanding throughout the start of this offseason, where things are so unique now in college athletics with the portal, and it's never finished, right? It's always playing out right in front of our eyes. Mark, I will be honest with you. I'm sure you've heard other people say this here to you over the last 24 hours. I did a double take when I saw your tweet last night. I had just expected, I'd kind of moved on from the idea that Magoon Gwath would be returning to San Diego State. So kind of take us behind the scenes. How did this come to be with Gwath removing his name from the portal? And if he doesn't end up in the NBA draft, he's going to return to San Diego State.
You know, I mean, there were starting to be some rumblings a couple of days ago that he was considering a return to San Diego State. I didn't believe them because I just thought the money was too great, and he had made his decision. And but as yesterday started to progress, you started to see these crystal ball predictions, and one after another started saying Kentucky, Kentucky, Kentucky. I had a couple people from Kentucky reach out to me, and then they sort of said, something's not right. We thought it should be done by now. It's not. Something's going on. And that's when I started, my antenna sort of went up. And I was actually at the Padres game last night when all that went down. And I was writing a story on my phone from the press box.
Wow.
But yeah, it was an unexpected, at the start of the day. But as we got into 4 and 5 o'clock and I started hearing from these people from Kentucky saying something's not right about this, I started to think, gosh, could this really be true? But even knowing all that, when I actually talked to Ryan Dutcher last night, I still couldn't believe it.
So what do you think was the deciding factor here for him to return? I mean, it obviously wasn't money. What from your sense and your reporting do you think was like the main reason why he returned?
I think he all along wanted to be at San Diego State and stay at San Diego State. And in a perfect world, he's a young kid, right? And it's a little scary, all of a sudden you got to go to a new team, a new program, and new coaches, and new everything. And so I think in his heart, as Brian Dutcher said, he wanted to stay. The problem was just making that work. And I think as he started to do Zooms with other schools, I think that reality of going somewhere else started to hit him. I also think in the back of his mind, he knows he has a chance to make a lot of money in the NBA. And if you play your cards right, develop right, you're going to get there. And this is the best development move that he can make. Maybe he'll end up in the NBA next year, and that's still a possibility. But I just, if you don't end up in the NBA, and you want to develop yourself into maybe a lottery pick or a high, first round pick, the best place to do it is at the place you were just at, the place that discovered you, the place that brought you from nothing into this great prospect. And so that's the smart move. but most kids aren't thinking that way right now. And so obviously Magoon and the people around him, are thinking a little bit differently and probably a little bit more judiciously than other kids are.
Really good insight. Mark Ziegler from the UT. So if we take a step back for a moment, and if he does return and isn't in the draft here in 2025, what could this mean for San Diego State's ceiling next year?
Well, they just landed this guy, Sean Newman Jr., who is a true pass-first point guard, which is exactly what they need with all this sort of embarrassment of riches around him. I really think they could be good. And you have to see it on the floor and you have to actually win the games. You have to stay healthy. You have to find some sort of chemistry and find an offense that fits and suits these guys. But I mean, when you look at it, you're going to have the number 3 assist guy in the nation as your point guard. You're going to have Miles Bird, quite possibly, assuming he doesn't go pro, as a off guard. You're going to have Reese Waters, who was a preseason all-conference player, and who might be their best player, including Magoon and Miles, as another guard, and he's a big guard, lots of experience. You're going to have Magoon, who is the most unique player in the country, 7 feet, block shots, but can shoot threes. And you've got a whole bunch of 5 men between Farrell Compton, Miles Heide, and Sakbor Majak, who is a really good shot blocker, maybe not quite as good as Magoon, but in that kind of category. Plus, a BJ Davis, plus a Taj DeGourville, plus a Jeremiah Oden, who is very experienced 4 and 3, who can shoot it 6'9", gives you more athleticism and length. I mean, you just go on, and you start looking at this team going, my goodness, this is a really, really good team. Plus, most of the guys have been in the program, and that's the key right now with so much newness in college basketball, that these guys are going to have the continuity in this culture, in this program. So I think the sky's the limit. I was just thinking about it today as an AP voter. Where would I put them right now? I think right now I'd probably put them in the top 15. I mean, I think they're going to be that good.
Wow. Love to hear that. Mark, you talked to Dutch. We talked to Dave Velasquez earlier in the show, but when talking to Dutch especially, could you sense maybe a shock from him, like surprise, or how did he, I guess, react to Magoon returning when you can hear him talk?
Well, the thing about Dutch is, like, when Nick Boyd left, and I spoke to him about that, there's no surprise, there's no emotion. He's learned through years and years of coaching. You have to take your emotion out of coaching to make rational decisions. And he's taken the emotion out of this. He understands. He's the adult in the room. Everyone else freaks out. Yeah. But he's the adult in the room, and nothing surprises him anymore. Whether that's Nick jumping in the portal when no one thought he would, or Magoon jumping out of the portal when no one thought he would. I just think he realizes it's a crazy time, and you just have to keep plugging ahead every day, and what happens. So I think he's the least surprised of everybody. I think everybody else around the program is a little surprised, but Brian Dutcher, nothing surprised him anymore, and he's seen everything in his career, so there's nothing he's going to see that's new.
Mark Ziegler with us right now, covers, of course, San Diego State basketball for the UT and does a terrific job in that position. A tricky putt has been keeping rosters together when portals are open. I mean, I recall last year, sometimes you think something's going to happen, and then things do change, especially as you get late in the process. Maybe the money increases elsewhere. Will they, in your opinion? I mean, do they have a good shot of keeping all these pieces together, or is there an expectation, because there's still another 20 or so days, that change could absolutely come?
Yeah, you don't know.
Yep.
I mean, just we've learned with Nick and Magoon, you really don't know. And anyone who thinks, okay, it feels comfortable, is misguided. April 22nd is the close of the transfer portal. And what happens is, guys jump in early, right? And then teams start to build a roster. And then the guys who plan to stay sometimes don't like those roster pieces, or don't like where they think they're going to fit in, and they jump in the portal late. Or there might be other reasons. We saw it last year with Elijah Saunders out of the blue. I mean, literally days after hosting a recruit, because he's the best recruit host and the best representation of the program, they felt, and did such a great job. And a few days after we hosted a big man recruit, he's in the portal himself. And so I think they've learned from that experience, and they're not going to start counting their chickens in this roster until April 22nd, and then they'll really move forward. But in the meantime, they're going to keep adding pieces, and they still have the really big piece I thought was the point guard. They just got that done. They still need to find a rebounder. I think they need another shooter. But they have some more scholarships to use. So I just, it's hard to say that no one else is leaving. I think all the guys are committed to it right now, and I think they're probably getting pretty excited.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that every player has to balance is are you going for the money, or are you trying to be on a really winning team? And knowing that, rising tide floats all boats, this could be a really, really special team. That's got to be worth something. So I think even the guys looking out there going, man, that the portal's exploding, I really could make a lot of money, are going to have to weigh that with, man, I'm not sure I can go to a better team than this.
All right, Mark, I'm going to put my conspiracy hat on for a second. Dave Velasquez on with us earlier today told us a story over the weekend where they went to a function. When he showed up with his kids, Lamont was there, Micah Parrish was there, you had a couple other players there, and Elijah Saunders was there. We know how tight this group is. Elijah just entered the transfer portal earlier today. Miles Bird retweeting him, saying something along the lines of like, yeah, E, with like a fingers crossed emoji. Anything there?
Again, you never say never. It's rare that a kid comes back to the school that he left. He really left them in a lurch.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be some hurt feelings there. I'm not sure they really need him right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure he's starting in this roster. He's going to come back to sit on the bench.
Yeah.
They just signed Jeremiah Odom, who kind of fills that spot. And I don't know what his value is. I mean, his value is probably a little bit higher than what they would pay. So I know the players are certainly Miles wants him back because they're buddies. They came up together. But it's going to be interesting to see if they can fit him in and if he really fits what they need. So much of this for them is fit. That's why Sean Newman, and I know everyone's talking about Magoon, but I can't tell you. I mean, I talked to him on the phone. I'm about to post a story on him. This is a really, really good kid. He's really old. He's 5 years out of college because of COVID. He went to a JC. They didn't play a year. Then he got hurt. Then he played a year. Then he played two. This is an old, mature kid who just wants to win. And it's so perfect for what they need. And so that's what I'm talking about when I say fit. That's what they're looking for. So I think it's more fit than it is emotions and trying to get the band back together.
I'm so glad you mentioned like the age, because you've heard Dutch as often as I have, if not more, say, an old team is a good team by and large. And last year he didn't have that, yet he still brought them to the NCAA tournament, which was quite the accomplishment when you consider some of the injuries they dealt with, including Reese Waters and, of course, Magoon Guat there late in the season. But all of a sudden, Mark, to your point, you look up, you had a sixth-year player in Odin. You add a player in this point guard that's 5 years removed from college, to your point. If you retain your roster, they're all a year older. Like they went from one of the younger teams without the continuity to one of the older teams with continuity, and they seemingly maybe have done it just overnight, in just a couple of weeks.
Yeah. And the thing, that people need to appreciate, because most fans just look at their own team and they think, oh my gosh, the transfer portal was crazy. You lost this player. They are in better shape than probably 99% of teams across the country. Indiana has no roster. Or let's just look in town. UCSD, I feel awful for them. They have this incredible season. They have this historic season. They go to the NCAA tournament. They nearly beat Michigan. They are decimated. Their top four leading scorers, gone. 5 of the top 6, gone. Their 2 incoming freshmen reopen their commitment. Their coach, gone. They have a hiring freeze. They can't hire assistant coaches right now. I mean, that's a roster in major need of a reconstruction. And it wasn't just their 3 best players who left. It was their 3 players who left. I mean, those guys did everything for them. And then you go over to USD. They have 11 players in the portal. They only have 3 scholarship players in the roster right now. Now, 2 of them are their top 2 leading scorers, so it's a good place to start. But, I mean, that's a lot of roster construction you've got to do. We're already a week into the portal, and they haven't added anybody that we know of. I mean, San Diego State's in really good shape right now. Now they're just fine tuning. They're just looking for a and you maybe need a rebounder or maybe get a shooter here. Or gosh, we could take another high school kid with one of our extra scholarships here. And that's all they're looking at. I mean, I think they have 3 scholarships left. So, or maybe even 2 now that Magoon's coming back. So, they're in you just have to keep the perspective. They're in really good shape.
Yeah, it's well said. I'll tell you, Mark, when I saw your tweet, I think I had just assumed that he was gone. And the way you wrote it before I clicked in the article, it said SDSU fans will be very, very happy. I was like, does he mean unhappy? Because I had just assumed once he went in, he wasn't coming back. But again, in this brand new world that really is a wild, wild west, you can get all types of results, including Magoon Guath, one of the top players in the country, returning to San Diego State if he does not enter the draft in 2025. Mark, we love your reporting and your writing. It's great for Aztec fans. We appreciate you joining us, and I'm sure there'll be new news within the next 12 minutes. So thank you.
Absolutely. One thing I got to tell you is it was funny yesterday because I honestly thought, that's why I wrote the story like I did. This is not an April Fool's Day joke. I honestly thought for a second, wait a minute, could this be April Fool's? Because there had been this stuff going on all day. And one of them was someone posted on Facebook that Dave Velasquez had taken the head coaching job in Hawaii.
Saw that.
Yep. And I halfway fell for it and actually texted him and said, wait a minute, what the heck is this? And so there was, a little bit of me thinking, wait a minute, at 8:30 on 8 o'clock on April Fool's night, is someone really trying this? This can't be really true. And so, I mean, it was one of the first things I asked Brian Dutcher. I'm like, are you serious? This is not April Fool's. You've got to be honest here.
Yeah, that is unbelievable. April 1st, 2 years ago, Lamont Butler. And then April 1st, 2 years later, Magoon Guath returning to San Diego State. Simply incredible. If I'm announcing I'm returning, I'm probably doing it April 2nd or March 31st, by the way.
Exactly, please.
Appreciate it, Mark. Always do. We'll do it again soon.
All right. My pleasure. Talk to you guys.
Great stuff from Mark Ziegler. We can react plus back to the Padres and Jackson Merrill with Kevin Acee, our Padres insider, joining us at 5:30 right here on John and Jim. What a day. I mean, 24 hours ago,
We were so naive.
San Diego looks so much different. Right? Magoon Guath was off to Kentucky, hypothetically, according to social media.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Merrill, man, price tag's going up. Is he staying around?
Yeah.
Like you got one eye on the future? I'm kidding. And 24 hours past, Miles Byrd, we already knew he wasn't going to leave, but he kind of further cemented that point if he doesn't go to the draft. Aztecs added another player in the portal, this point guard that was third in the nation in assists per game last year. Padres win another couple of games, right? From 5-0 to 7-0 since last night at this time. They hadn't even played.
Right.
What else do you want? We got SDFC midweek live in 40 minutes. We didn't have that 24 hours ago with Darren Smith.
The only thing that has happened today that has sucked is my battery crapped out and I had to get a new battery in the parking lot here at iHeart. That cost me $200. But
honestly, I'm cool with it if that equaled out. Like, if not for that, if the things didn't happen, I'd be like, I'm glad that your battery died because it led to these events occurring.
Yeah, I will sacrifice.
If that was the consequence.
Yeah, I will sacrifice for the greater good. 100%. I will have a battery that dies on me in the parking lot where I have to call AAA and spend $200 for a new battery in order for these other things to happen, like Magoon returning, Jackson signing a contract extension, the Padres approving a 7-0.
Here's my question. Did the battery die because you were in your car with the car on but not the engine on and you were consuming Merrill content? Like, were you sitting with a car on for so long it cost you your battery?
Yes. I had the car halfway on.
Yeah, where you just hit the button, but the engine wasn't on. Your car was not running.
I was watching the Merrill press conference on Padres, the Padres YouTube channel.
But you weren't sitting there idling.
No, it was like the car was halfway on. You know when you turn
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
And so I had on my mount on my car dashboard, I put on the Jackson Merrill press conference on the Padres YouTube channel, and I just put it there, and I was just watching it.
So you were probably sitting there for 30 minutes?
About 30 minutes.
The issue is then you're just running it all off your battery.
I didn't
So
know.
if you didn't do that, would you have saved $200 or would your car have died?
It would have died because when the AAA guy came,
it's like your battery's
we opened the hood, and when the battery dies, you get like this, I don't know, discharge from it. Almost where it's like you can tell, all right, this battery's bad. And he tested it, and it tested out to be in the red, and it said really bad, need change. So would you consider
DMing Merrill and be like, listen, I saw you got 135.
If you
this battery was $200. Yeah. You still have a lot of money. It's because of you that my battery died. Would you do that?
I'm taking one for the team here.
You take one for the team.
I'll take one for the team. But I wasn't too upset. Like, do I want to spend $200 to replace my battery? No. But also it had to be done eventually. And so might as well just do it now. And I'm glad that it was in the parking lot here and not on the side of the road somewhere on a highway or at my house as I'm about to come to work and then I'm late to work or some random area. And thankfully I have AAA, so it was all fine.
Yeah, that's such a good point because on a day like today, where we have so much to talk about and there's so much excitement in the sports scene in San Diego, imagine if you got into your car at 1 p.m. because you're like, yeah, I'm home. I had things to do. I'm going to race into the office. I have a show in an hour. You get in your car is dead. Now you could Uber. You could have figured it out. But imagine that. It's 1:30. You're like, I don't even know how to get to work. It's the biggest day of the year. We've had these days. We've been big days. San Diego's from a Padres, Aztecs, now SDFC. There's been a lot going on. But this is one of those days that, especially with what you and I do, I mean, we sat here in February, we're like, what are we doing?
Yeah, this ain't our first rodeo of big stories in town. They don't happen all the time.
No.
Because we don't have the NFL, NBA, whatever. But, when they do happen, we know how it feels. And this is one of those days where everything is happening. So, yeah, have I been here since 8:45 a.m. this morning? Yeah, I have.
Right. I know. It's been one of those days, but it's been one of those really good days as well to cover sports in San Diego. All right, Kevin was up early because he had already published an article probably around 6 a.m. with the news of Jackson Merrill's extension. What a jaw-dropping extension it was. 9 years, $135 million.
You know what I bet? I bet that article was written last night, and it was a published date of this morning around whenever it was published at 6 a.m.
I don't know. Robert Murray had it.
I know he had it.
I don't know. If you want to ask, you can ask. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
Did you read that article at 6 a.m., Kevin?
I mean, it was right. It was in the 6 a.m. hour, I think. I don't know if it was a full article or it was just like 3 paragraphs at that point.
Yeah. I don't know if there's like updated quotes and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I'll ask Kevin, hey,
when did you find out?
And not only when did you find out, when did you get rumblings that this could be possible?
Yeah, how did you find out? Yeah. Kevin Acee, our Padres insider. What a day for the Padres. Kevin Acee will join us on the other side. Do not go anywhere. It's Sean and Jim.
This update is brought to you by Staples Stores. The Padres are 7-0 as they completed the sweep against the Guardians today, winning 5-2. They swept their entire first homestand of the year. They are 7-0 on the year. They got an off day tomorrow before they start a 3-game series in Chicago against the Cubs. Moving over to news this morning that dropped. Jackson Merrill, he's going to be here for a long time, signing a 9-year, $135 million contract extension. In Aztecs news last night, Magoon Guath announced that he will be returning to San Diego State. He will not be entering the transfer portal, and he also will be entering the NBA draft process while keeping his college eligibility. And this update's been brought to you by Progressive.
All right, let's get Kevin Acee in here. It's been a long day because I saw Kevin publishing and writing very early this morning. I think I was in bed, truthfully, when I saw what was transpiring with Jackson Merrill. Of course, it's at the UT. Padres Jackson Merrill agreeing to a 9-year, $135 million contract. So, Kevin, let's just start there. And you cover this team day in and day out, right? And you have for a long time. Do you ever expect something like this? You know it's a possibility. You've heard some of the rumblings. Was this an expectation for you heading into today or not?
Yeah.
It's something that over the last couple of days, I didn't know that it was going to happen, this quick until yesterday, or late last night. But yeah, and like you said, there've been rumblings and just certain things transpired in the last couple of days that are part of my reporting process, so we won't get into it. But yeah, and I think that everyone, and you guys, I'm sure, have spent hours on this. That if it was going to happen, it was going to be because of Jackson Merrill, right? Like that it was going to be a contract that was team friendly. Didn't know how team friendly, but we could still debate that. I think it's very, and it was going to be because Jackson Merrill wanted to be here.
Doesn't it feel, Kevin, like, if you're going to bet on any player, that you're going to want to bet on a guy like Jackson Merrill, just the way that he presents himself? Every time you hear him talk, you just feel so confident that he's going to succeed and he's going to do right by you, and he's not going to make you look like you gave a contract to somebody that didn't deserve it.
Really good point. And that's a big part of it, right? Like, you can say it's a team-friendly deal. They still guaranteed a minimum of $135 million to a guy who is, now 7 games into his second season, who, whatever. I mean, he could not perform. Obviously, they don't think that. I mean, personally, I don't. I'm sure you don't. But I just think there's so much upside in this contract, and there's not very much downside. And a big part of that, besides the performance component, is what you said.
Kevin Acee, our Padres insider, by the way, brought to you by the all-new Jamul Casino and Resort, the Players Place. So obviously, John Seidler, as you've been reporting on, has only been the chairman of the Padres for a short period of time. What does it say here about this group and the stability and where they are moving forward that he's able to secure such a commitment so early in his tenure?
Yeah, I mean, this is really an A.J. Preller, Nick Ennis, Josh Stein, Jackson Merrill, and his agents show. But in terms of what it says about the Padres is, I mean, I do believe it says they're going forward like they said they were. It's not their fault they were able to get a nice, friendly deal. But they went and got Nick Pivetta, right? When they needed to. They locked up Jackson Merrill. They've said they're going to keep doing it. And, I don't see any evidence that they're not doing what they say they're going to do.
Kevin, 7-0, 7-0. There's a long season left. We all know that. But at this point in the season, yes, it's early. Doesn't it feel like, that the front office might be sitting there and be like, thank goodness we didn't trade Dylan Cease for Michael King, and instead, going down the path of we're going all in this year?
Yeah, this is why, right? Not 7-0, but the fact that they thought they had this team.
Yeah.
They had a team that was capable of reeling off 7, maybe once, twice, 3 times in a season, like most good teams do. And so, yeah, that's why. And I think leading up to the season, we talked about why it probably wouldn't happen that they would trade those guys, because it is about 2025. So, again, and I happen to be writing about it right now for tomorrow's newsletter, is it's really about the process, right? Though, I don't know, I haven't done the math, but if you, have, let me know, save me some time. But I've just spent a lot of time downplaying the start, in terms of 7-0 or 5-2, whatever. It'd be a good start if they were playing like this, right? But they're 7-0, which means one game over 500 the rest of the way, I think, is 85 wins. They are giving themselves a cushion here.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We had a guest from Fangraphs yesterday, Kevin, that does the analytics and does the Zips projections. In fact, Dan Zimborski he made the same point. He said, well, the math may still very well overwhelmingly support LA winning the division. The same holds true, though, that you can't take away these wins when teams get off to good starts, and you can't make up for the ground you've lost if you're a team like Atlanta. It doesn't mean it's end-all, be-all stuff, but it is significant mathematically when you start 7-0 or you start 0-7. I want you to go down a path that you went with us at some point within the last week, where you mentioned that you aren't convinced that the Padres won't make a run at Michael King, right? You had thrown that idea out there. Is what played out today with Merrill allow us to go down that path even further, that it's a team-friendly deal? They've proven they're committed to players. Could Michael King still be a possibility moving forward?
I think it's a different guy who it still could be a possibility moving forward. I would imagine, unless they're going to come in big time, that it would be after the season. Michael King does like it here. I mean, San Diego's really grown on him. You know, he's the East Coast guy, and but it's grown on him. He loves Jackson Merrill. He loves Joe Musgrove. And I don't single those guys out to say that he doesn't love the rest of his guys. Michael's a big team guy. I mean, he loves these guys, and has really come to like this place. But he's earned this right? Like Jackson had a long way to go before he was going to see that big payday, though his ARB years would have been pretty good. Mike King has earned the right to go to free agency. And when I say that, I mean that I believe, based on my discussions with people, not Michael King, but that Michael King knows he has earned that right. So it won't be anywhere. I'm not saying this was easy, but it won't be anywhere as easy as this one.
Back to Jackson Merrill, we all lived the 2023 season and it wasn't fun at all. It was hard. And then Jackson Merrill comes up in 2024 and it just, the mindset of the team just feels like it completely shifted. And so we talked about it earlier, Kevin, like, yes, Manny Machado is the leader of this team. He's the captain. He's the guy with the best resume on the roster. But I mean, we could argue without Jackson Merrill, the attitude of the team isn't what it is today, and maybe they're not as good as they have been over the last year plus now.
Absolutely. I'm not sure that there's any questioning it. And like, you give a lot of credit to Mike Schilt, who came in and, had been fortunate enough, by the way, to be a winning manager before, but maybe as important, if not like more. He was here for 2 years to watch the dynamic, right? So he knew what needed to be done, and he empowered other guys, Joe Musgrove, Jake Cronenworth, at the time, Jurickson Profar, to come alongside Manny. And then in comes this kid, Jackson Merrill, who is so deferential to these guys, but at the same time is so infectious that they all bought into it. He's taken, I don't want to say pressure off of Manny, but he has taken a little bit of that. I have rarely seen a guy with the legit, authentic leadership qualities that Jackson Merrill has. It's rare. And I say that as someone who, when you first meet him 3 years ago, you're like, who is this cocky kid? All right, let's see how this plays out. And then you find out it's real, that he's not being it's not cocky, right? It's just right up against it. It's incredible confidence, but also this incredible respect for the game, respect for the guys he plays with, what they've done. He is special. It goes to why we talked about why this makes sense in some ways and why you don't have any questions about it. Look, no one's perfect. In my life, I've covered 2 guys, let's say 3 guys. I'm not going to name them. I've covered 3 guys who I would bet you everything I have and everything I ever will have that I won't wake up in the morning and see their name on the police blotter, right? I won't be having to write about them because I'm not saying anything about the other guys, but people are people, man. You don't know what's going to happen. Jackson Merrill probably is the 4th guy on that list. It's just that rare that you can have that much confidence in a guy. And I say that as someone who, I don't know if I could be handing out $300 million or $135 million contracts. I just don't know if I could do it. That's a lot of money. Jackson is just above and beyond. And I know that I am gushing, but I'm just a guy who pretty cynical because, I cover sports. I get lied to a lot. I see a lot. I see a lot of guys who I do believe in, and then they aren't, and that's how you learn from it. And I just don't think Jackson Merrill is going to disappoint me or anyone else.
Kevin ACR Padres insider. That's well said. It's a good perspective.
It's okay to gush today over Jackson Merrill.
I mean, he's earned it. He's earned it. And I wonder, moving forward.
True, right? Gushing is okay, right? Yeah.
When it's true, I wonder what type of growth or potential or ceiling there is when a player performs like this so quickly. And what I mean by that is, here's a guy that's sitting on a $135 million deal yesterday, as he mentioned today. He goes out and homers last night. He signs this deal and talks to the media this morning, and then he homers again today. So it's hard to put him in a box because I feel like he's fully capable of more than he's shown us to this point, but I don't even know what that looks like as good as he's been.
You are making a point that is dear to my heart. And what I have found over the course of my career is guys that rise to the moment, they're just different, right? Jackson, this is what I knew. I mean, when he hit that homer, that's about the time I found out that it was going to come down, needed to get some more details and stuff, but, needed to kind of work out some logistics. But I'm like, oh, crap, I think this is happening. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, just homered. Right. He knows it's happening. Yep. He don't care. And what I love about that is that's kind of exactly how Jackson would say it, right? Like he's like he said in his press conference today, talking about, absurd deals and, all that. Like, he just talks and so he knew that. And then the same thing today, right afterward, just basically everything you said, like the moment is not too big for Jackson because every moment is a moment to him and he just plays the game. And when you're guys like him, I'm not just when you're elite players, right? You slow the game down and it's not that big of a deal. And then it comes across to guys like you and I as, wow, he really rises to the occasion. And that's what special players do.
Yeah. I mean, he's just a special player, special kid. He's beloved in this city already. And it's just so early on in his career. Yeah. What a great city. Do San Diegans who've been scarred going back to when I was 8 years old and Dave Winfield left, right? Don't have to mention the Chargers, but I will just to make my point. All the players who would leave here, maybe not of their own volition, but they were traded, right? There's a lot of scarring here. Plus, we got this kind of inferiority/superiority complex with LA. But San Diegans love San Diego. And there's only one thing we love more, right? We love Tony Gwynn was a Hall of Fame player, but that he chose to be here all those years. Yeah. This is people like Jackson Merrill. There's people probably already want to buy him a statue. Just if you're a longtime San Diegan, you're like, he loves us. And I just think it's perfect. It's perfect.
Well, it's also perfect. And as we wrap here, it was interesting. He referenced you specifically where he's like, listen, I might read you and I might go through a slump, but I thought he had kind of, I don't even know the word I'm looking for, a lot of maturity for understanding that dynamic. You know better than I do, Kevin. Not everyone understands the dynamic between a player and a media and what your responsibility and job is. And that can cause friction.
Now you're getting to the heart. Yeah. Jackson's a throwback. I remember it was last May 3rd, I think, and I just written about him being in his first slump and, kind of some adjustments he was trying to make. And he's walking out of the ballpark in Arizona with his girlfriend, and he's kind of, lights me up a little bit about writing about it. A little smile on his face, but he lights me up about it. The next day goes on a tear, that lasts for 3 weeks or whatever, right? Or a couple weeks, whatever. In July, he goes home to Washington, near his home. I write, he's coming out of the All-Star break. He's in a slump. He is, after the game, just faking like he's not going to talk to me, joking. And by the way, I'm talking about this now only because Jackson he brought our inside joke public, right? And he's just lighting me up and just, it's also, again, a little bit of a smile, but also a little bit of the red ass, right? And what happened the rest of the season. Guy was just, he was good. Him and Manny carried the team. So it's always been every time, and there's probably been a dozen or more that he'll just bust me, including a couple days ago. I'm like, you're welcome. Every time I do it, you go on a tear. So, let me know next time you feel like you're slumping.
Well, you'll take 2%. Your 2% is 2 points.
He will acknowledge that he reads stuff, whereas other guys in here, not to name names, will pretend like they don't until all of a sudden they're yelling at me, and I'm like, well, golly, how did you know that? Well, I read everything you write. Oh, okay. I thought that you didn't because that's what you said. Anyway, whereas Jackson is the old school guy. This is the second I'd walk in the clubhouse back in the 90s. Hey, get over here. And then with some other colorful words. And then we talk about it and it would be over and then everything would be fine. And I do miss those days. And so if you wonder if I'm a little partial to a guy who's a pro. And look, I've proved that I'll write when he's doing bad. So this isn't about me showing him favoritism. It's just about my respect for him and I'm a guy, thank you for giving me the soapbox. I don't give a crap how you treat the media. I don't. It's not important. Except when it is, except when it's a part of the whole package. And so Jackson, in his respect, and especially I think for everyone, gosh, he'll stop for anyone. But especially for the beat writer and the guy who's around all the time, he shows those guys the respect that he feels like, oh, well, hey, they're doing their job too. And that's how it used to be. And so I'll sound like an old man, but I do think it is all a part of who this guy is.
Amazing, amazing insight. Kevin, great reporting. We will do it from Chicago, Illinois on Friday at some point after game 8. Thanks, Kevin.
Take care.
All right, Kevin AC, our Padres Insider, brought to you by the all-new Jamul Casino and Resort, the Players Place. Forget Jim's back page.
I love Jackson Merrill.
We'll react next. What a day here in San Diego. If you missed anything, sportssd.com, iHeartRadio app, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify.
I feel like tonight.
Oh, we're doing a wrap-up show.
No, we're doing a wrap-up show for sure.
Of course.
But I mean, like tonight after the wrap-up show, we can take a breath. And then tomorrow it's like, all right. Not as hectic.
This is the last show. What do you say? This is it.
Oh, is it?
We've reached the pinnacle. We've reached the summit.
Cool.
There's never, you didn't know, sports are over.
Oh.
This was the end of sports.
If the meteors did hit right now, I think everybody would be okay with it.
Like of course it hit now.
Of course it did.
Everything's great.
Yeah, everything's awesome.
There's always something I've learned in doing this and in covering sports and in watching sports and in fandom. Unless you root for the New England Patriots or we're a teenager in Boston over that 12-year run where everyone won.
Everybody.
Celtics, Patriots, Bruins, Red Sox.
Or Yankees fan in the late 90s.
Right. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's examples. Don't get me wrong. There's examples. There's good examples. But for 9 out of 10 fans, more than that, there's way more heartbreak than there is ecstasy. Euphoria. Yeah.
As a cynical person as I am, as good as this season has been.
This season, it's been a week.
I know.
Feels like a year.
Opening day was last week, right? No,
it was less than a week. What's today? Wednesday? It was Thursday.
Less than a week ago.
It wasn't 8 days. I mean, we haven't had another Thursday since the last one. We haven't had more than one Thursday.
It's been less than a week.
Right.
But you can't help but think like this is going too well, right?
That's what I mean,
I hate thinking that way.
I mean, we all know they're not winning 116 games. And by the way, that Mariners team lost in the ALCS.
True.
So you have to have long goals.
Yeah.
You can't just, 100. I want to see it all. I'd love for them to have a record-breaking regular season. But what I'd really love to see is them make a deep run in the postseason.
Like if they lose 2 or 3 to the Cubs over the weekend.
It's not a reason to sell the season tickets.
No. And come Monday, you're still 8-2.
And I don't want to hear, well, the Merrill deal.
No.
Here's why it doesn't make sense.
No, we don't have the audio of it. I just saw the quote. And this is, Jackson Merrill's going to have a book full of quotes.
He really will.
I got an idea. End of Jackson Merrill's career. We create a book with just all his quotes in it.
Kind of like that.
Because he's already come up with some really good quotes so far throughout the first, year plus of his
Padres
career.
might make $135 million selling his quote book in the store. Like, hey, we gave a 135, we made 136 on the book.
Dude, I need a Jackson Merrill quote book.
It would already be like 50 pages long.
I would buy it in a second. But here's another quote from Jackson Merrill today.
He can't have more quotes. What did he say?
He said, and you saw this.
Yeah, I think we might have talked about it.
He goes, we want to beat the other team's ass,
Yeah.
We're here to kick someone's ass, not win. We want to come out there and dominate somebody. Like,
okay.
Oh, okay.
Like, dude, it's April 2nd. Relax.
No,
You're playing the Marlins.
I love it.
I know.
I want you to go out there and dominate. Show no mercy.
Sir, this is a Wendy's.
But show no mercy.
Why are you taking it out on the Nationals right now? But yes, that is the mentality that is necessary in sport, especially when other teams have, you're going up against teams like the Dodgers. I want someone like Jackson Merrill when I'm trying to beat a team like LA this year.
And baseball is not like football, which is just like, I'm going to go out there and hit somebody as hard as possible. You have to go out there and you got to be patient
and do the work.
More often than not, live with failure and still try to succeed. And then he's putting out those quotes. I'm like, let me fight somebody.
Listen, I thought when Merrill struck out in his first AB, maybe things had changed. He proved me wrong in his second AB when he homered today in a Padres 5-2 win. Jackson Merrill is going to be here for a long, long time, and the Padres are 7-0. Join us tonight at 9:30. We'll have a wrap-up show on YouTube, reaction to the Merrill deal, and this historically good start for the Padres. We're back tomorrow at 2 p.m. If you missed anything, you know where to find it. For Brent and Jim, I'm John. SDFC Midweek Live with Darren Smith is on the other side. Keep it here. This is San Diego Sports 760. Okay. Bye.